Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Hello everyone, I'm the Enforcer, and we are back after a little tiny technical issue. Of course, let's welcome Matthew back onto the stream, everyone.
Yeehaw!
And of course, we're going to be reporting the past 24 hours of the war in Ukraine again. Some of y'all may be wondering, what the hell? He was just doing this a second ago. And you're right, I was. But due to some problems, we had to start the stream over again. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on from the Kherson front, but before we do, let's just cover this real quick. The bots are seething right now, apparently. Apparently, they can't handle watching that the Russians are once again losing the war in Ukraine for the 227th day in a row, and so they've decided that this is personally my problem. And so they are trying to get us, and also the Leaf Spring Army as well. But one thing that we've laid out ever since the beginning of time on this channel is that regardless of what happens, as long as we have breath in our bodies and we are able to keep food in our mouths, we will keep covering this stream, this news, and keep running this stream until the very end of the war. And so with that, if you like that idea, make sure to hit the like button and also subscribe. And so with that, we're now going to be continuing on with our analysis in the Kherson area. Kherson, of course, we're not going to be covering any of the videos, so sadly I can't show that one again, just in case, but one thing that we do know for certain is that the Russians will not be winning in this area. And if I had to assume, let's just say real quick, if I had to assume where the Russian positions exactly were, so that way we can make sure that the bots are as happy as possible, I'm here for their pleasure, I would assume that the Russians are now setting up defensive positions at the town of Novokuban. There is probably about half a battalion strength in this area, so we're going to put this right here as a Russian defensive position. And we'll just put that down right there. I want to make sure that we make the bots as happy as possible. So in all transparency, to make sure that they know what's going on, I'm going to tell everyone exactly where I think the Russians would be at this point. Also, we can largely assume that they're also at Chernobyl Yar, which would be a very logical standpoint. They most likely have created a defensive position here on the other side of this small lake, so we are going to put this right here. They're going to be covering, I guess you could say, the western flank surrounding Chernobyl Yar, and then the rest of the lake. That most likely would give them a little bit of overlook into Chernobyl Yar. Let's make sure to check that real quick. I want to make sure that we are as clear as possible. So Chernobyl Yar, and let's go to the little lake, which looks like it doesn't actually exist on this map. Yippee. Let's check this out right here. Terrain. Can we get some terrain? We can. So in a way, I guess it would. It's kind of a valley, so we'll put it right there. Defensive line. Now, the strongest position of Russian defense is most likely in the area of Malove. So they're going to be putting down as much of their forces as possible into this single area. So what I would assume is that they're actually somewhere on the perimeter of the town. So we're going to go back to normal satellite view to try and get the best lay of the land here. So Malove. So there's a bridge up here. I'm assuming that the Russians would most likely try and protect the bridge. So we're going to put that down. We're actually going to draw up a defensive line because I'm not exactly sure if the Ukrainians have made it onto Malove yet. Once again, the front line isn't exactly accurate, but we're going to put this right here. This is, and they're only going to be protecting around the bridge. There may be a couple of units sparsely put out in this inlet, but this is a Russian defensive line. And we'll color that in like a crayon. There we go. And then, most importantly, y'all notice that I was looking over here, and that's because this is an open amount of ground that the Russians could be flanked on. No way. Who would have ever thought? So we're going to have to put a little defensive line down here too, because that would only make sense, unless the Russians have just gone full idiot mode, and I wouldn't doubt it. So we're going to put a Russian defensive line right there. And we're going to color that in red as well, so that we all know for the future. And by and large, looking at the rest of this front line, there's just not a lot for the Russians to work with. Now, there is some stuff to work with down here in the Kherson City area, but that's just too far back for these guys up here to be concerned with. So let's go and put down the terrain feature again, and let's see where an advantageous area to make a front line would be. Now, right here, this would be a nice place on that bridge, and you could probably make a defensive line that had a decent supply connection through here. So we're going to draw out the supposed Russian defensive line that I think they're most likely trying to fortify, so that way these forward forces can fall back onto it and maybe have a better chance of holding the ground behind them. So we'll put this about right here. And remember, everyone, this is for the posterity of the bots. I just want to make sure that the bots are as happy with this channel as possible. And so, Russian defensive line approximate. Put that right there. We'll save that. And we're going to make this a nice color. We'll make it white, the color of surrender. All right. And so now that we've made sure that the Russians are well taken care of, we're now going to be moving out of the Kherson area. And once again, I don't expect them to last for much longer, as once another concerted Ukrainian push begins, these lines in this area that I've highlighted will most likely collapse. But moving on out of Kherson and over to Odessa, we did see some great news today as the Iranian Shahed drones were shot down over Odessa overnight. And so, here's the video. We can see the air-to-air missile flying over the sky towards the Shahed. We can see the Shahed get blown into a bunch of small pieces. And with that, the Russians won't be able to commit any terrorist actions on the Ukrainians in Odessa tonight. And the Russians, once again, are crying. With that, that's the end of the video, and it's nice to see that they just can't win for nothing. Also, we do have a special little video from Radio Free Europe later on speaking about the Shahed 136 directly, and actually, without further ado, we are going to hop over to that video right now, considering we are on the topic of the Shahed 136, so that way y'all can get an idea of how competent and how well engineered the Shaheds really are, and the answer is they're not. And so with that, here's the video of Radio Free Europe making a little bit of a special about how these Shaheds work. Once again, a huge credit to Radio Free Europe for making these videos, so that way we can understand some things in great detail. And so here's the video.
Есть горочка, есть, давай, дорогуша, давай.
Взагалі зразу такий страшенний пожар було і воно. Звук чуть, от аж реве, отак от реве, бо я ж їх перші два я чув, от, а другий я бачив і чув. Реве і пішов, бух, і взірвав. Ось така ситуація.
Я взагалі проснувся від жужжання якогось. То я просипаюсь, думаю, це що? Щось чую, воно все ближче і десь біля дому взірвало.
You can see some parts of one of the Shaheds right there. We can see more parts right here. And also, Matthew, I'd like for you to note the RC engine that they're using on the Shahed right here. You can actually see it.
Interesting. Is that really an RC engine?
I'm supposing it is. It looks really shoddy, actually. And I'm going to let the video go on because they actually explain in some pretty good detail that these Shaheds aren't that advanced.
Это машины примитивные, которые делаются полукустарным способом там, под землей. То есть нужно понимать, что это не машины, которые штампуют на конвейерах, вот высокотехнологичных, как, скажем, Байрактар или американские всевозможные, или израильские БПЛА.
We now see a video of the firefighters responding to some damage that was caused by a Shahad.
Вон, я бачу його.
Oh, a two-stroke engine.
It is. Aren't RC airplane engines two-stroke?
I think, I'm not really sure to be honest. I think they use nitro engines in little RCs.
Now, real quick, Matthew, do you think we can trace down the brand that this two-stroke engine is from?
I would have to see multiple pictures.
All right, so let's see. I think as the video continues, we'll see a couple. Here's another side view of a mostly damaged engine.
Мотор у нього як уяви. Булькає, що його можна вирахувати за багато кілометрів до того часу, коли він буде над вами. Це порада військовим. Це перше. Друге, літають вони не так високо і не так швидко. І певними різновидами стрілкотні їх можна знищувати. По-третє, кількість вибухової речовини на них така велика, що їм не раціонально заморочуватися над знищенням особового складу.
Ворог намагається економити, як ми відзначаємо, свої крилаті ракети різного калібру, різного типу, тому що ті ж самі шахіди, про які ми говоримо, вони, по-перше, коштують набагато дешевше, їх можна застосовувати набагато частіше, і вони працюють не по одному, а інколи парами, і навіть відзначаємо, що по кілька таких дронів камікадзе ворог під час однієї атаки може запускати.
That sound is really ominous, I have to admit.
It sounds like a V1 Doodlebug, honestly. I'm seeing a lot of people too say that it's some kind of a Rotex engine.
Скажу оккупантам. Даже если вы еще где-то в мире найдете какое-то другое оружие с таким же естественным для вашего русского мира названием, как эти вот иранские шахиды, которыми вы пытаетесь бомбить такие наши города, как, например, Белая Церковь, это все равно уже ничем вам не поможет.
And with that, that's the end of the video. Of course, courtesy to Radio Free Europe that made it, and an interesting look into the Shahed drones and how they're being used in the war. Also, a little bit of their, I guess you could say, technical stats. Now, we got a really good look at the engine from the Shahed 136, and I saw a lot of people say that it was a Rotax 914 engine. Now, looking at this engine, I have to say that I would have to disagree. It does not look like a Rotax 914, but I'm going to let y'all decide. So what do y'all think?
I don't think that's the same one.
I don't think that is the same one. We also have another one, the Rotax 2-stroke, right here. I'm assuming it's this one. Maybe. Let me go back and look at that video again. Let's go back and look exactly at the, let me go through, there's the engine. Right over there. It's a very small, flat engine. Actually, it looks like it may be in a couple of pieces right there. But there was another picture of it, and that just does not look like the 2-stroke even. It's some other kind of did this one get age restricted to?
Not that I see.
Someone just asked age restricted. Real quick, everyone, this one is not age restricted, and if this stream is not age restricted, because that throws us into reactive mode, we have to start moving immediately to go and try and fix that. Just letting y'all know tonight, you will be immediately banned because I have to sit there and go, oh my god, has that happened? I gotta go and try and do a million things in the background. So please do not do that because I have to stop the whole stream to go and check. So with that, we're going to be moving on from that. We don't really know what kind of engine it is, but it looks pretty cheap and pretty small. But with that, we're going to be moving on out of the Kherson area and also the Zaporizhia and Odessa news. And we're now going to be moving into Russia and our location unknowns. But before we move on, we are, of course, going to answer 3 questions from the chat and also address our polls. And so with that, what do we got, Matthew?
All right. So for our first question segment of what was a rough start to the stream, we have 2 polls to address. And the first one says, do you think that Vladimir Putin is having a happy birthday? And Enforcer, just to be clear, is today his actual birthday or is it coming up?
Let me check. It's his birthday today.
Aha. So the poll is perfect for today then. So the results were 48% said no, he is having a terrible one, as he deserves. 35% said, probably not. And 17% said, yes, he's having a good one. And I think a lot of the people that answered, yes, he's having a good one, meant it in a sarcastic way, like, oh yeah, he's definitely having a good one with all of his soldiers getting, taken out by the dozens in Ukraine and losing and being pushed out. He's definitely having a wonderful birthday. I hope it goes well for him.
And probably so, and I would have to say, sarcastically, oh yeah, he's having a great one. And realistically, not at all. This is a terrible birthday, and I think the Russians may have been right. The Ukrainians launched this entire counteroffensive across the entire country just to ruin Putin's birthday. It's not to liberate their people or clear their lands of invaders or anything like that. It's just to ruin Putin's birthday, because what other reason do they have? And so with that, I hope that addresses that poll fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one has only been up for a minute, but we're going to go ahead and address it. The question was, do the Iranian Shahed drones have an ominous sound? And also, I've seen a lot of you in the chat saying it sounds like the Enforcer is saying, S-head, basically, a different word than Shahed. But I don't think the Enforcer's saying that, but I think that could accurately describe the drone. Would you say, Enforcer?
I would say so. I'm saying Shahed. I've never heard anyone say the other where it sounded close to Shahed. If for some reason someone is, let me know. I would like to know what accent they're speaking in. But yeah, I would say that accurately reflects the drone. And sorry, everyone, real quick, because I was just thinking about this. I probably do sound a little agitated right now, and to be honest, I kind of am over what happened. I did not see in any of the videos we showed in the last stream anything that was age restricted under any means, and that's extreme. That actually aggravated me a lot tonight. That for some reason YouTube just came through and went, oh, yep, there it is, and it wasn't even there. It's not like I watched the videos, there's nothing in them. So with that, sorry about that once again, everyone, but I hope that does address it fairly well. And so back on to the poll.
All right, and the results of the poll: does the Shahed drone have an ominous sound? 45% said it sounds pitiful, 21% said somewhat, and 34% said it sounds ominous. Now, even though I think the drones are pitifully constructed, I will admit the little crappy motor does sound kind of ominous, knowing that you hear that buzzing noise and all of a sudden you hear the big boom come behind it. A little bit of a, I guess you could say, ominous sound. It's sort of strange to me. It kind of has the same effect that the Burt from an A10 has, in my opinion. But, Enforcer, what do you think?
I would think it sounds a lot like I would say it sounds a lot like a V1 Doodlebug. Let me pull that up off screen real quick so that way I can get you all the sound. So real quick, let me go pull this up. Give me just a second, everyone. All right. So here we go. Here is the sound of a V1 Doodlebug from World War II. And see how it's kind of similar? This is a little bit higher pitch, a whirring noise, like a really constant whirring noise. So in that way, I kind of consider them similar because the sounds invoke the feeling of dread that this flying bomb, and really, honestly, the Shahed 136 fills the exact same role as the V1 Doodlebug in many ways. I consider them both almost in the same category, and so I would consider it a little ominous. I guess I would have to be in the minority on this one, but still, I still have to stand by what I believe in. And so with that, I hope that it addresses the poll fairly well, and we are now on to the questions.
All right, and moving on to our super chats, we did save the ones from the prior stream, so don't worry about that. We do have them. And up first, we have a $75 donation from Mark, the Orc Ex-Sanguinator, and thank you once again, Mark, for your support. He says, can you pin a place for us to complain to YouTube and encourage all the LSA to write a letter of complaint to YouTube? Restricting it is ridiculous, although in truth, some people would be upset by the videos, mainly Ruski bots.
And thank you so much once again for the massive amount of support, Mark. And that does help this channel to keep on running, even in light of the difficulties we've been facing. And to answer that question, sadly, there really is no place to complain to YouTube. Believe it or not, they don't really even give me a recourse to contact them. I'm just kind of out here existing on YouTube, and if they do something to us, there's really no way for me to get in contact with them at all. Even with the copyright strikes, we were only able to get rid of one of them. The other one, I have constantly tried to have repealed, and it gets shot down. And the stupidest thing is that we sent formal letters to their office in California, in Palo Alto, California. We sent numerous emails to their copyright offices and all kinds of stuff explaining the situation and why that ought to be removed. And yet it still hasn't happened. There's still technically a copyright strike that's standing on this channel that hasn't been removed. And they haven't given anyone a good recourse to go and have anything done about it. It's honestly incredibly annoying to me that there is no recourse for YouTubers like me, or really anyone for that matter, to get in contact with them when they're running a business. And this is like any YouTube channel is an extenuation of their business, and we aren't able to get in contact with them. So the answer to that, sadly, is no. We just kind of get the short end of the stick every once in a while, and there's really no way for us to do anything about it, which is just annoying. So with that, thank you so much once again for the massive amount of support, Mark, but sadly, that's the way things are, and I guess that's just what we have to live with. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much once again.
All right, and up next, we have a $55 super chat from Garrett Lowe, who says Russia losing their UN Security Council veto should be included in the terms of their eventual surrender after Russia is fully expelled from Ukraine, Slava Ukraine.
And I thank you so much for the support. And I think that the Russians should have some pretty decent, I guess you could say, I don't want to say damages put upon them after the war. One thing that we do have to remember is that while we're infuriated about this war, remember that the Treaty of Versailles probably created the worst monster that ever was created, which was the enraged German populace, and that created, in essence, the Second World War in its own right. So I do agree with you entirely, at least emotionally, that it would be great to try and inflict as much in a peace treaty on the Russians as possible, but we always want to make sure that it doesn't end up in Treaty of Versailles territory, because then we could be creating a monster that we have to deal with in decades' time. But still, I agree with you. I would wish for that to be done, but we always have to consider the historical implications and what has happened contextually when similar things, well, I guess you could say incredibly harsh things are done. But with that, I thank you so much once again for the support, and thank you so much for helping out this channel again. And with that, we are on to the last question of the segment, and then we'll be returning to the news.
All right, and the final super chat of the first segment of questions goes to Wesley, who puts in a $50 donation and says, "Before anything happens, here you go. I'm sure it's hard going to college and working full time to keep us up to date on the war, and thank you."
And thank you so much for the support. And it is getting a little tough. Honestly, tonight I was, over the past few days, Matthew and me have been dealing with large papers and midterms that are due in college right now. And having done this for a long time at this point, having both of those things combined at the same time is just a recipe for exhaustion. But I made a promise that this war news was going to be covered every single day until the end of the war. And so regardless of how tired I get, this will always be covered. And I thank you so much for enjoying that about us and appreciating it and helping to support us so that way we can keep on doing it. And so with that, thank you so much once again for those kind words. And I'm glad that you've been enjoying this channel and that you're helping to keep it moving on forward. And so with that, thank you all so much once again for your kind words, and also y'all support to this channel. It helps us to try and weather through things like age restrictions on other streams, and it of course always helps us to keep this news running. And so with that, we're now going to be moving into Russia, into the town of Tula, where we saw that there was some entertainment. And I figured out today why the Russians aren't being issued rifles, because if this is the kind of entertainment that they're being subjected to, if they had guns, they would most likely fire at themselves instead of at the Ukrainians. So here's the video. Boy, they are into it. And I'm so into this mediocre, crappy singing. If this was American Idol, they would call this guy insane for even coming on. But here in Russia, this is top-end entertainment. And of course, I just saw JD Macko23 say, "Now that's entertainment." And I would have to agree. What do you think about this, Matthew?
I guess it's entertainment. I guess you could call it the circus.
I don't know. I don't even know what this is. Honestly, this seems like a deranged man just screaming on the street. And look at all these soldiers. They are motionless. They're probably motionless because of the raw talent that's standing right in front of them. They just don't understand the potential. And so with that, that's the end of that video, and I just wanted y'all to get a quick glimpse of what's going on in Russia and what the conscripts are being tortured with. Not only are they being tortured by cramped living conditions, no supplies, no food, they're not getting any weapons, they're being sent to the front immediately with no training. Now they're being tortured through the entertainment as well. I think all of this has been constructed, and of course this is just a bit of a sarcastic joke, all of this has been constructed in Putin's sick pleasure for his birthday. He wants to watch the Russians suffer, and he's found out the easiest and quickest way to do it for his birthday is with some crappy singing on the side of the street. And so with that, we're now finally going to be moving out of Russia. Thank God that couldn't have happened any quicker. And also, real quick, since I pinned that to the town of Tula, sweet Tula, let's go to Tula and let's see what Tula looks like. And I know someone's about to say it's Tula, not Tula, but I want to pronounce it that way. So let's drop down on Street View. Let's see what we got. Okay, so they got a little church. Not gonna lie, the church doesn't look bad. They also got some kind of a large stockade behind it. Interesting, interesting. The road's a little slick. Like, it's like been raining on one side of the street, but not on the other. Let's drop down right here. Not gonna lie, this town actually doesn't... Well, there's a lot of graffiti, and also these buildings look like the plaster's falling off them. But honestly, this may be one of the more bourgeois towns I've seen in Russia over my time of dropping down on Google Street View. Of course, Moscow and St. Petersburg look incredibly good, at least in the very city center, and a couple of towns in Russia look okay. Usually they're the further west ones, and so it honestly, to me, is a little bit interesting to see that Tula doesn't look that bad compared to most Russian towns. But let's drop over here in Commie Block land. Let me just make sure. Ah, yes. Commie Block land is where we will find squalor. We have found it, everyone. The squalor is right outside of the downtown area. So if you're anywhere up here, you're screwed. But if you're down here in Tulip, you're largely okay. Well, wait a minute. What about this Commie Block land here? Let's check this out. Okay, they actually mow the grass in this area. Interesting. So the northern end of the city is like the squalor. I guess the rest of it's pretty okay. So with that, we are now going to be moving on out of Russia and on down into the location unknowns, which we've had a massive amount of today. And so, starting off with our first little clip, we can see the Ukrainian Thunderbird Recon Group, not associated with the Thunderbirds demonstration team in the U.S. Air Force, sending the drones up. And so, here's the video. Of course, the music has to be muted, but it's really cool to see them using their drones to scout out for the artillery. We can see them moving out of the muddy Rasputitsa fields, taking off with their DJI Mavics. We now see them looking at some destroyed Russian vehicles, Russian helicopters on the move, Russian tanks on the move. We can see Ukrainian artillery truck right here, BM-21 Grad, firing off its rockets. We can now see those rockets hitting downrange in a pretty decent volley. Russian bots are crying right now. If someone asked me, what do Russian bots sound like, Enforcer, whenever you play your videos, they're over there going, because they're trying to hold it back so hard that they just can't handle seeing that the Russian army is just lost 8 months into this war, and it's unrecoverable at this point. We see a Russian vehicle get obliterated in the tree line. We see a Russian tank right there sitting inside of a dugout in the tree line that then gets hit, which somehow causes the engine bay to catch on fire. I'm not going to complain. It did happen. And with that, that's the end of the video, and it's pretty interesting to see that the Thunderbirds are doing a pretty good job. Also, they have the bald eagle as their mascot, and I don't know about y'all, but it seems like they've taken a lot of inspiration from U.S. symbology in this recon unit. I don't know about you, but what do you think, Matthew?
Yes, it does. And I have to say, they come up with some really cool, like, logos and things for their, like, units. That's pretty cool.
Honestly, it is, and I wonder if we could get their designers to do something for us. I wonder. But with that, we are going to be moving on from that little clip and on into our next one in the location unknowns. Starting off with our next clip of the Ukrainians hitting the Russians again. See them running through the field, a little sunflower here and there, of course marking where the Russians once were and will never return. But you can see them laying low in the tall grasses.
And also, real quick, Enforcer, I see some people saying they saw white phosphorus. Did you see that?
I think they're talking about when that tank got hit, the white phosphorus grenades probably exploded on it. But I didn't actually see any of that being used specifically. Now see them loading up some more RPGs and firing them into the distance. Boop! And there they go. Into the tree lines above. I see them marching through the woodlands. We now see the screen go dark, and that's the end of the video, and it's nice to see that the Ukrainians are still striking the Russians the best they can. This says Sumy defense, but considering, this is one big note, considering that there hasn't been any activity in Sumy, and we have never seen this video before, of course, there's not even a front line in Sumy anymore, I'm assuming that that must have been from another location and maybe a unit that was based in Sumy before the war that's somewhere around here, but I'm not entirely sure. We're now going to be moving on. Go ahead.
Enforcer, real quick, I see a lot of people saying, no, it was at the end of the clip, and they saw white phosphorus. I think we ought to go back and take a look.
Let's go back and take a quick look. So let's take a look at this video. Ah, yes. The white phosphorus that for some reason I didn't see. I'm sorry, everyone, and thank you, everyone, for catching that. I must have looked away at the live chat for a second because I did not see the white phosphorus pouring down from the sky, and apparently used by the Ukrainians. But once again, the Ukrainians, believe it or not, they get a little bit of a pass. Some of you are like, hey, wait a minute, that's like some kind of like dodgy rule placement. You always say that it's wrong when the Russians do it. Yes, and let me explain why, just in case if some people have that question. I'm sure that people will still complain about that even after I explain. And I'm kind of being negative about that tonight. I'll stop that. But anyways, when the Russians drop white phosphorus on a location, they would do it like in the Saltivsky district of Kharkiv over these houses filled with civilians, and they'll burn a decent amount of them alive doing that. On the other hand, when the Ukrainians use it, they're using it on a tree line filled with Russian vehicles. And according to the rules of war, you can actually pretty much cook militants with incendiary weapons as long as you can prove that as long as there's no civilians there, you can cook them. Pretty much. That's what I'm trying to get out. So with that, we're now going to be moving on into the next bit of Location Unknown News, where we can see and there's been a little bit of a filling in. And a filling in of an M113. You now see the rear hatch lifting up and closing. And we can now see even more M113s across the entire area. And so with that, that's the end of the video, and it's nice to see that the Ukrainians are still using M113s. I'm assuming that these are most likely some kind of a Danish or a Norwegian M113 that's been provided to them, and that they're filling them up pretty decently and using them as efficient troop transports. With that, we're going to be moving on into the next bit of Location Unknown News, where we can see some pictures of Russian food. Now, everyone, if you have a sensitive stomach, I highly suggest you look away, because while some of it is not spoiled, some of it is just gross to look at. The first bit of food, she is sverny kaputzi. That's how I would feel if I tried to eat that. I would feel kaput because that just looks nasty. Moving on into the next picture, we can then see some kind of a sakuska. Let's type this in. Sakuska.
It looked like diced peaches or something.
It looks like let me see if I can read that. Conservi. Let's see. I think some people will probably try and tell us what it is on the live chat, hopefully, what the translations are, because I can kind of read it a little bit, but I don't really understand the words all too well. But moving on into the next, a lot of people are saying the first one was cabbage. And someone said it looks like a, well, I don't think I can say that on stream. Sitting and thinking, though, man, do you see his comment?
Wait, who was it again?
Sitting and thinking.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I think if y'all would like to look at Sitting and Thinking's comment, I think this first one does look a lot like that. The second one, yeah, I don't like the look of that. And then the third one, I actually feel sick looking at this one. This is just gross and nasty. Like, what is this supposed to be? She is svechi Kaputsi. Again, it's once again Kaputsi. I don't know what that is, but I feel gross looking at this stuff. It's just nasty. So some people are saying pickled cabbage and diced carrots. And I gotta tell y'all, if the Russians are eating pickled cabbage and diced carrots that look like this, I know why they're surrendering now. It's because not only they're getting blown away by the Ukrainians, they're blowing out the rear end too, because this stuff just looks awful. So with that, we're now going to be moving on into our next bit of Location Unknown news, after looking at what the Russians are getting, and we can now see... One second, I actually want to find this one next. We can see what the Ukrainians are getting on the other hand. So remember what the Russians are eating. Those things in the jars, the pickled food, is what they're eating. Let's see what a Ukrainian food supply shipment at the front looks like.
Ну що, очередна наша ще одна посилочка
Від дружиненьки
від дружини,
Тарасенко Юлії Анатоліївни,
так,
яка пожаліла чоловіка.
пожаліла чоловіка.
Не доїдає. Так. Голодає. Да, голодає.
Що там?
Дивимося. Це таке тут.
We see them pulling out the food and opening up the shopping bags.
Так, сило.
Ого.
With more bags.
Ого.
Туалетна бумага. Моюще. Так, це подаруночок ковдра, щоб я не замерзав.
Ага, отлично.
Так. Огірочки.
Another bag. This time, look at that. Fresh cucumbers. Now, a lot of y'all may be asking this, and this is a great way to measure how efficient Ukrainian logistics are. Those are fresh, unrefrigerated cucumbers. How long can they last? How long can vegetables last out of the fridge? We didn't want the answer to that. How long can vegetables stay out of the fridge? That's not the answer we're looking for. So real quick, I actually pulled up this question before stream just to make sure I could be brushed up on it. Apparently, a cucumber will spoil within 3 to 4 days if it's not refrigerated. Well, actually, I believe it was closer to 3 to 2 days, but we're going to push that and say 3 to 4 because I believe it'd still be edible at the end of 4 days. And so that means that this cucumber came from a store, some kind of a grocery store where it was refrigerated, or some kind of storage depot where it was refrigerated in Ukraine, or fresh from the field, and has arrived in the front lines within 4 days of that time. Maybe within even 1 or 2 days of that time. And it's fresh, real food. It's not pickled, it's not canned. This stuff is actually fresh like you would get at a farmer's market. Now that seems like trivial drivel, but that means a lot. If we look at this front line here, and let's just say, let's work off of the old Russian timetables that we did a while ago with their logistics chain, and let's say that there is a supply unit in Poltava, and the front line is at, well actually, let's see how far the front line could actually go with a supply line like that. So, from Poltava to about, I believe the furthest we found out a Russian supply line could go was about 35 miles from a railhead before it couldn't go any further. And we know that the Ukrainians are using the railroad still. And so 35 miles round trip, that means that the Ukrainians are able to get an entire supply convoy from its base, from a FOB, up to the front lines, probably 35 miles in distance, unload everything, fresh, and they somehow have a supporting front line that can supply this food fresh to the front lines, and then that final supply unit will then send it there, and then they can make a round trip and come back and continue to give Ukrainian soldiers, because their front line, well, they're, I guess you could say, logistics are so well sorted out and efficient, they're actually able to supply things like fresh cakes, fresh vegetables and fruits to the soldiers, which is huge. That means that the supply lines of the Ukrainians are on par with some of the best in the world, because the United States has also been able to do things like that in the past if we look at Iraq and Afghanistan. In some places, although the far more remote ones in the mountains of the Hindu Kush in Afghanistan, they didn't get those same kinds of luxuries. But let's see what else they got.
Салатик буде. Сьогодні буде салатик. Що там? Що там у нас ще?
Now see them opening up the next box.
Ого! Ого!
Oh. Wow, look at that!
Ковбаски нам передали, щоб ми не
Sausages?
робили.
Now they're going to have a feast.
They're having feasts up here.
Копчене салко.
В общем, в столовку можна
Майонез. Ігор, згущене молоко, інкасатор.
2 тижні можна не ходити тепер в столовку.
Now we're getting into some canned food, but still,
Бомба.
what in the world? These guys are eating like kings.
Молоденька, домашня.
Та, все,
A whole sack of
порядок.
potatoes, just fresh potatoes. They're not spoiled like Russian potatoes. And that tells you that they've won the war, is when you can see the average meal of a Russian soldier is some kind of a pickle, cabbage, or carrot, and the Ukrainians are getting fresh potatoes, vegetables, fruits, cakes, sausages, all that kind of stuff. You know they are in the clear logistically, and for that reason alone, they will most likely win the war. Moving on into the next bit of news in our location unknowns, which I'll get to here. We can see that there was another failed Russian push today. We didn't get the exact location of this push, but one thing I can certainly tell y'all is that it failed. So here's the video. Also, the music. When you see the artillery landing on the Russian convoy. We can see what looks like several vehicles were destroyed. It looks like almost all of them were BMP-2s with a main battle tank mixed in. Actually, no, BMP-1, BMP-1, BMP-2, or BRM, and then a T-72. All wiped out in one spot. Not a bad little take, and I don't know about y'all, but I think that the Ukrainians, combined with their vegetables, cakes, and sausages and all that good stuff, they're getting the energy to keep on giving it to the Russians, while the Russians only have the energy to sit there and get obliterated. With that, we're now moving on to the next bit of Location Unknown news, where we can see the Russians getting blown away by a Ukrainian drone again. So here's the video. You can see the drone moving around. Of course, the bomblet getting away of the camera. And we can see the Russian tank right there in the tree line. Actually, correction, this looks more like a BTR-60. When we see the drones getting quite close to it. We now see them making sure that their alignment's correct. The bomblet's now on its way, and kabooey, right behind the turret, straight into the crew compartment. But we don't see any smoke coming out of the vehicle, so I don't know if the damage was superficial or if it actually penetrated the upper roof armor, but we did see a direct hit from a Ukrainian bomblet again. Moving on to the next bit of news, we can see that the Panzer of the Lake has returned. In case of y'all don't know what I'm talking about, Panzer of the Lake is a meme that's been circulating the internet for some while, and it's a picture of a German. Let me actually make sure. I just saw something in that Google Images that may not want to be shown on stream about the Panzer of the Lake. But real quick, let me make sure that we find this thing. Yep, and there it is. I'm glad I didn't show that. So we're going to flip this back over now that I made sure to keep this all nice and PG. There's the Panzer of the Lake. In case if you've never seen it either, Matthew.
It looks like the Loch Ness Monster, maybe?
Yeah, and there's been a lot of memes made about this tank. In fact, here's one. Oh, Panzer Link, what is your wisdom? I don't know what kind of answer that is. I actually feel regret for clicking on that. But anyways, the Panzer of the Lake is a thing, and we can see that the Russians have now created it with a T-90. And so here is the T-90 of the Lake. Oh, great T-90 of the Lake. What is your wisdom? It's drowning. So with that, we're now moving on into the next bit of Location Unknown news. And our last bit, where we can see a pretty big Russian gun. Captured, of course, by the one and only Ukrainians.
Лягають і розбігають. О, це ще й ця. Затворені.
Болтовик, конечно. То піднімаю сюди.
Now see him getting on the ground and getting ready to take a look down the scope, but that is a pretty big gun. I don't know the exact caliber. It could be like a 12.7 or 14.5 or something similar, but still huge. And it's nice to see the Ukrainians were able to capture one of these probably rarer Russian guns. With that, we've now covered all of the location unknowns, and we're now going to be moving into our last segment of news for the night, which will cover the rest of the news from northeastern Kharkiv area all the way down to southern Donetsk. But before we get to all of that news, we're going to take another pause to answer another 3 questions from the chat and also address our polls. And so with that, what do we got, Matthew?
All right, folks, and for our second to last question segment of the stream, we do have 2 polls to address this time, and the first one said, should weapons have a psyops effect on the enemy, i.e. ominous noises, etc.? 57% said yes, that is an important aspect, 20% said somewhat, and 23% said no, this is not essential aspect. Now for me, I think it's pretty important for weapons to have an ominous effect on the enemy, because not only does that affect their morale, it also scares the hell out of them when they hear, for example, an A-10 coming and they hear that gun going off. They know that they're in some deep trouble, and it scares them. It throws them off kilter, and it allows them to basically be taken out a lot easier, which is the objective. But Enforcer, what are your thoughts?
I would have to actually say that psychological warfare is probably one of the most important kinds. If you ever watched Mike Tyson fight, he freaked his opponents out so much and got inside their heads before the battle, well, the fight, not the battle, the fight so well most of the time that he was able to obliterate people just because they were afraid of him and afraid to actually fight him. Of course, that would start changing towards the later end of his career, but that's just a superficial example. Let's talk about actual examples in history where psychological warfare was used. Now, a lot of y'all may know of the Household Guard in the United Kingdom, and the large bearskin hats, well, helmets, or whatever you would like to call them, that they wear. Now, these actually serve a bit of a purpose, if I go down here and show them to y'all. Do y'all notice that this man looks a lot taller than the guy he's standing by, although they're probably the exact same height? That is psychological warfare at its finest. That's also why you would see that back in the day, hats in the, I guess you could say, earlier 19th century used by militaries started to emphasize a bit of height. In fact, you would also see that in the shako cap. Let me see if we can actually find it. Here we go. A shako, which adds height to the wearer, and it's a psychological thing. The taller a person looks, and the more height you can kind of naturally add to them, like these bearskin helmets, it makes them look more intimidating because it looks like you're going up against a giant. Also, you can see this used as well on yeoman warders, also from the United Kingdom as well. Which we'll put this down, yeoman warder. It's not a warden, but for some reason the Google search says warden. And we can see here that once again, they are wearing hats to make themselves look a little bit taller. Not as emphasized as it is with the household division, but still, bigger hat, taller person, more psychological effect, a little bit more ominous since they, with the hat on, tower over you. Another great example of some psychological warfare, probably the best one, is some samurai armor. This, of course, served a protective element to the normal samurai, but you can also see that they put in a lot of effort, an incredible amount of effort, into making their headwear as scary looking as possible. And if you look at that, man, would you tell me if that person wearing that is sane or insane if you just took a quick glance at them?
They're probably crazy as hell.
They're probably crazy as hell. And that's the exact point of the headwear. They want you to think that they are scary and they're crazy. And so you can see that psychological warfare historically has played a pretty decent part throughout all of human history, especially during the 18th and 19th centuries from these examples, in trying to make the enemy scare you. And if you can get inside their heads and freak them out, you will probably be able to win a lot better over them. The Ukrainians did this exceptionally with the drones. You can't hear these things, you can't see these things, but at a moment's notice, you could be vaporized by a bomblet anywhere on the battlefield, and that has demoralized Russian soldiers heavily. And so I think that psychological elements to any kind of weapon is a massive contributor. to anyone on the battlefield, whether it be a soldier, whether it be an aircraft, or some kind of weapon that the soldier is using. It should invoke fear of from the enemy side. Also, one other thing that's really interesting, and an aspect that a lot of people don't look at, is that riot police in every country look scary as hell. I mean, like, you can't even get around that. If you look at these guys, let me find y'all a great example of one. This body armor is not made for this reason, for protective purposes. Notice how the body armor has almost like abs made onto it. That's supposed to make the wearer look stronger and make you psychologically think subconsciously that this guy is going to throw you down to the ground and beat the living daylights out of you if you mess with him. That is used a lot in riot control for the psychological effect of making a protester or a demonstrator think that these guys can mess you up if you get on the wrong side or if they're told to do that. And so in that way, it's kind of made to disperse a crowd, regardless of who the crowd is. So I hope y'all have enjoyed that little interesting side note, because not a lot of people look at riot police in that regard, but that's the exact reason why they look like this. It's to scare the hell out of protesters, demonstrators, and rioters. And so with that, you can see that, once again, to reiterate the point, psychological, I guess you could say, effects are very important in terms of warfare and also trying to control a situation. And so it is crucial to make sure that you can try and fit in some kind of psychological element in there somewhere. And so with that, I hope that does address that poll fairly well. And of course, I'm on the side of making sure that something has a little bit of a psychological effect to it. And with that, if we have another poll, we can go over it. And if not, we are on to the questions.
All right, and for our second poll, the question was, what is your position on the white phosphorus being used by the Ukrainians in the last video? It looks like 52% said it is acceptable, 24% said I don't really know, and 24% said it is unacceptable. Now, from my understanding, it is legal to use white phosphorus, like military to military, but not on civilians. However, I will fall in the acceptable category of 51%. But I would prefer not to see it used because it's just such a nasty weapon. So while it is acceptable technically, I really don't like seeing the Ukrainians use it. But Enforcer, what are your thoughts?
Considering that the Russians have been using it nonstop throughout this entire war, I would have a problem if the Ukrainians were using it against the Russians and no one had done that yet. But the Ukrainians have had a massive amount of restraint over the course of most of this war not using it. And while the Russians have continuously used it wherever it convenienced them, even in civilian areas. And for that reason, even if it was against the rules of war, the Russians have already broke that well enough. And I would consider it pretty acceptable for the Ukrainians to use it, I guess you could say, in retaliation against the Russians. And of course, I know that people are about to say, if you do what they do, then you're just becoming the monsters they are. That's not necessarily the case, because in the First World War, you would see both sides use poison gas, and while it wasn't against the rules of war at the time, it was clearly inhumane, and that's why right after the First World War, the use of chemical warfare became outlawed. It was clearly seen then, and that was one of the major horrors of the First World War, was coming back blind or permanently scarred physically from inhaling some kind of a neurotoxin or chemical gas that was being used out there. And so for that reason, I would consider this largely acceptable. And so with that, I hope that we addressed that poll fairly well, and we are now on into the questions.
All right, and first up, we have a $50 super chat from Joe Little, who says, third-generation Czech American immigrant and Slava Ukraine.
And thank you so much for the support, and also Slava Ukraini. And that is very interesting to hear. You are a third-generation Czech American immigrant. And that's so freaking cool. I'm trying to think about when they would have come over. I'm supposing sometime in the 40s or the 50s, probably after the Second World War, since that's 3 generations. And that would be enough room for 3 generations, or I could have the ages off, and you could be it could have been even earlier. I'm not exactly sure, but that is really cool to hear. And of course, I thank you so much for the support. I'm trying to think. Like, I wish there had been I'm going to be honest with you. I wish you had said something like, I'm from the Sudetenland, or I'm from like the Bohemian area, because that would have been really cool, because I could have been like, oh, let's go take a look and drop down somewhere. But with that, I thank you so much for the support. And also, fun fact, Matthew, did you know that the Sudetenland, which the Germans would annex before the Second World War, and also before they annexed the entirety of Czechoslovakia, The Sudetenland then was an industrial hub of the of Czechoslovakia, and even to this day, you can see that it is still one of the larger industrial powerhouses of Czechoslovakia. As you can see here throughout the Sudetenland hills, that there are these massive mines that they use to mine all kinds of materials and minerals from.
Interesting. Yeah, I definitely didn't know that.
Yeah, it's really cool too. But anyways, with that, thank you so much once again for the support, and thank you so much for helping the Lee Spring Army to keep on rolling. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we have a $50 super chat from Randy Wiedenfield, who says, for a question from the chat, I came in late to seeing the first stream, age restricted from the start. And Randy, yes, you are correct. Sadly, it was. But Enforcer, I'll let you take it from here.
And of course, I thank you so much for the support, and I'm sad that the other one was age restricted, but luckily, we were able to start an entirely new one, and honestly, we didn't really take that bad of a hit from it. Based off of a normal night, we did lose about 1,500 viewers at this point in the stream, but that's fine. The news is still being covered. Y'all are still here and enjoying it, and that's the point that matters, is that the news is still being covered. Regardless of whether there was just 50 of y'all here or not at this point, it would still be covered. And so with that, thank you so much once again for enjoying it. I don't know why YouTube went and age restricted that one. I'm going to go back and review it with a fine-tooth comb. Also, another thing, a huge gripe that I have with YouTube is that when they age restrict your content, they never go and give you a citation of what specific part of that video led to it being age restricted. They just tell you that it's age restricted, and that gives me no idea whether that had merit or not, or whether I missed something or not when we were showing those videos. And that is an incredibly annoying thing to deal with, because it leaves me in a whole load of guesswork to figure out whether that is an actual legitimate age restriction or not. Because sometimes it is, sometimes before I have seen some things that I guess you could say YouTube does have the right to age restrict, but on videos like that, I didn't see anything, and they don't even tell me what is being age restricted for. But with that, thank you so much once again for the support, and we will answer a live chat in your honor. And so take it away, Matthew.
All right, and this one is sponsored by Randy, and it goes to WNNR 1957, who says, does Ukraine hold on to the Russian soldiers who have surrendered so they don't get forced by Russia back into the war?
And can you reread that one again real quick? I just want to make sure to hit that one time tonight.
He says, does Ukraine hold on to the Russian soldiers who have surrendered so they don't get forced by Russia back into the war?
Well, that's a great question. They hold on to them as long as it's convenient. And to explain that, they hold them most likely in some kind of stockade. I'm going to be honest with y'all, the Ukrainians are the best side in this war, but you can only expend so many resources on prisoners of war, and assuming how many the Ukrainians have probably taken on during this entirety of the war, they probably don't have enough supplies to take care of most of them, and so they're ending up most likely in large stockades. Just being honest with y'all, I haven't seen any video or picture evidence of it, but it seems to be a logical assumption at this point. But still, they will return them to the Russians in a prisoner of war exchange. And so let's say that there's 136 Ukrainian prisoners of war that they want back. They will exchange an even number of, well, that's actually kind of a little bit of a tough statement. It's whatever the negotiators can agree upon, because the Ukrainians actually did release a Russian arms dealer for about 136 prisoners in exchange. And so at that point, it wasn't an actual fair 1-to-1 ratio. It was like 1 to 136 ratio. But on a normal by and large level, just to explain it, the Ukrainians would exchange one Russian prisoner of war for one Ukrainian, and they would much rather give up that Russian and have him go to prison or something inside of Russia than allow more Ukrainian prisoners of war to sit inside of a prisoner of war camp in Russia and be beaten and be starved and tortured day in and day out. And so for the short while until there is a prisoner exchange, they will take care of them the best they can. But once there is a prisoner of war exchange, they're just going to hand them back, because they would much rather have a Ukrainian back than try and keep a Russian inside of a POW camp. And so with that, I hope that does answer the question fairly well. And thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel keep running. That's actually a really good question. We haven't had a lot like that one. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again.
All right, and up next, we have a $50 super chat from Magic Sky Girl, who says, this is a big middle finger to a corporation not to be named. We love you, enforcers. And thank you so much, Magic Sky Girl.
And thank you so much for the support, Magic Sky Girl. And sometimes I get incredibly aggravated with what we have to deal with doing this. Because sometimes, like the copyright strikes, what happened was just completely wrong. And what really annoyed me is that clearly we laid out the precedent. The copyright strikes were wrong. They shouldn't have ever been put on this channel. Speaking about that and my experiences with it, now that it's happened a long time ago. I went and contacted the counter notification claim service for YouTube. There is a system in YouTube for that. I sent in my counter notification claim 13 times on a single copyright strike, and 12 times out of 13, it was shot down and they said it was a baseless claim. They finally sent out the 13th one. It got sent to the guy who put in the false claim. He never responded to it because he made a baseless claim and there was no way he could prove that he actually owned that stuff, and the copyright strike was finally taken down. And it's outrageous to think that YouTube will sit there and let that kind of stuff go and not sit there and actually try and deal with it. It's a failing on their end, and they do stuff to our channel without even really looking into it or making sure to review it to see if, what they're doing is right or not based on the situation. Now, one thing I can guarantee you is that somehow, some way, they will probably watch us saying this about YouTube and then be like, oh, that's, we don't like that. But yeah, at the same time, they won't sit there and deal with the wrongdoings that are being done on here. But with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support, Magic Sky Girl.
All right. And up next, we have a $50 super chat from Todd Fabiker, who says, what do you think about crossing over at Zalata Balka over the Dnipro River? The Russians will never think it is coming, like an Inchon movie in the Korean War.
Zalata Balka. How was that spelled again? Zalata?
It's Zolota and Balka, Balka.
And the Kherson Oblast?
He says over the Dnipro River.
Well, that is an interesting point. However, there are some considerable limitations to this. First, if they did cross the Zalota Balka, they would have to set up some kind of a small port or a dock on the other side, so that way they could have, I guess you could say, a boat service that crosses the Dnipro Reservoir from side to side, transporting more troops and more supplies over here. And the question is, can the Ukrainian boat force make it to this area of the front line right now without being put under attack and a decent amount of it destroyed already? And the answer to that is most likely no, unfortunately. A lot of these Ukrainian small boats would not have the ability to fire back at Russian helicopters, which may prey on them as they try and make this transit, most likely from Nikopol all the way down to Zalota Balka. And so while it is it's a great idea, don't get me wrong, it would require a massive amount of logistical efforts to ensure that that would be a success, and the Ukrainians may not want to expend resources on that, considering that it may also make I guess you could say, war zone kind of close to Enherdar, and that would really have to be the direction they would reach for, unless, however, there is a different option here. And considering that this is all hypothetical, and I don't really think the Ukrainians would do this, I feel fine with going into a decent amount of detail since this is a massive hypothetical. But here's the only paved road in the area right here, and it looks like it's gravel. They could go south and they could start trying to march a long ways and really not recapturing any large villages along the way down the other end of the Dnipro River Reservoir towards Novokakhovka. Or they could go towards Enherdar, which may be a bit of a mistake because I think the Russians, in their blindsided stupidity, would fight tooth and nail for that power plant, even if it meant barraging the reactors directly. So it is an interesting idea. I will give that credit. But I don't know if it would be feasible for the Ukrainians to pull off and where they would go and how they would actually make it worthwhile. Because Kherson's within their sights. Like, Kherson is within their sights, so this is a reasonable offensive to push down the finger towards Kherson. Also in this area, a lot of decently sized cities are in their sight, like Izium and Kupiansk, which they've already taken, and also Liman. But there are no cities of that size even in almost this entire area, all the way from Enherdar down to Melitopol. Well, no, actually, correction. All the way from Enherdar to Mykolaiivka, then down to Melitopol, and all the way down to Novokakhovka. So this giant area here is just like empty space nearly. But it's still an interesting idea. I'm not going to rule it out. I'm just not exactly sure if they would try and pull that off. But once again, I thank you so much for the support and an interesting hypothetical scenario. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much.
All right, and moving on to our next super chat, we have a $50 donation from Lucy P, who says, I second what Magic Skygirl said. We, the LSA, do love our enforcers. And also, thank you to you, Lucy, as well.
And thank you so much for the support, Lucy. And thank you so much for backing up Magic Skygirl and what she said about the channel and the Lee Spring Army and the situation that we had to deal with before the stream. It is incredibly annoying. Once again, I gotta double down on this, but it's gonna be a real quick one. It's incredibly annoying to have stuff done wrongfully against this channel and not have that put up to review by someone at YouTube. And at this point, especially considering what we're dealing with Russian bots that, of course, attack every channel out there that covers the war news in a positive light for Ukraine. And they don't look into it. You would think that they would logically look into this kind of stuff and put YouTubers like me who cover this war in a special category. Like, okay, they've gotten a whole bunch of reports of community guidelines violations on this video. Let's make sure to go over it with a fine-tooth comb before we just have an algorithm automatically go and smack down an age restriction on something. You would think they would do that, but apparently not. Anyways, I thank you so much once again for the support, and I thank you for helping this channel to keep running in spite of what has happened tonight. And so with that, we are on to the, I think that was actually the last one, wasn't it?
And it was.
All right, and so with that, thank you all once again to everyone who has supported us, and also to everyone who sent in a super chat. Real quick, just to address this tonight, in case if you are new, we answer every single super chat that is sent in. We also, you do not have to pay. Let me make this clear. You do not have to pay to have a question answered. We do answer live chats at the end of the stream. However, we always put super chats as priority because that's the only way that we keep this channel running. We don't have a PayPal. We do have a Patreon, but that's just for supporting our video projects, not the streams. If you want to support the streams and us continuing to do these, super chats are the way to go for that. Let's see what else. I'm trying to remember where the spiel is going. Oh yeah. So we always make sure to recognize the super chatters first because they are the ones who keep this channel alive, so that way we can always come on here and report the news every night. So you do not have to pay, but super chats will get priority. And so if you're wondering why that's the case, it's because we want to thank them for helping us to even be able to run these streams. But with that, we're moving on into our last category of news, and I've noticed, Matthew, that due to the stream issues that we had earlier, we are starting to run a little bit into, I guess you could say, overtime in a way, because right now we would usually be covering the speech from President Zelensky, but due to the difficulties earlier on in stream, we're just now getting to the final segment of news. So this one's going to have to be a little quick. I'm sorry about that, but I want to make sure that we can get up tomorrow to get at it, because I have to write a 5-page paper as soon as I can tomorrow morning. So with that, we're now moving on to the area of Druvshina, where we saw that the 44th Artillery Brigade was slamming the Russians. And we're going to keep that muted. And we can see that they've hit one, and a small little flame has begun. And it looks like they're now having a special rocket launching operation as this Russian... What in the hell was that? What is that, Matthew?
I have no clue. It's like a roach.
I know what it is. I know what this is now. That is the Russian double eagle, the double-headed eagle that they put on their flag sometimes, but it's been cooked. Oh man, that's...
I can see that a little bit.
That's a pretty good one, actually. We can now see another one that's about to be cooked, and another one that actually looks like a Tiger armored car. Ooh, okay, that was it. I don't know if that was the Tiger armored car, but something just went flying. Oh my god, it's still flying. The Russians need to look into that for a drone, because that thing goes for miles.
Also, Enforcer, I think the KERCH bridge is on fire. I think it's been hit.
What? Hang on.
That's what I'm being told by multiple people.
Hang on, everyone. Hang on. Let me, while this video plays, we're going to go to the next one. I'm going to play it without really commentating on it too much. So we're going to be moving further down to the Kupiansk area, where we're going to be seeing the Ukrainians looking over some war loot. Hopefully this video is long enough for me to do a quick search. It is. So I'm going to let this play for y'all, and I'm going to go I'm going to go check out some other stuff real quick to see if we've just gotten some breaking news. So I'm going to let this video play, and this is all war loot that the Ukrainians have caught today. I bring to you all a special news segment. The KERCH Bridge is now on fire in the center span. It appears it has been hit by Ukrainian arms. We're going to put that down real quick.
Happy birthday, Vladimir Putin.
Happy birthday, Vladimir, my boy. The KERCH Bridge is on fire. Here's the video. Thank you to everyone who just brought that up. The KERCH Bridge is on fire. Yeah! It is a ball of flame. We can see that a massive fire has been caused about 10 to 12 spans down from the center arch on the Ukrainian side of the bridge, meaning that the Ukrainians have actually hit something nearby. Get everyone on this thing right now. Get your whole family on. Get everyone on, because this is huge. Let's look at the bridge. We're cutting, if we have to, we're cutting the rest of the news for the night. Let's go down here and let's take a look at this. All right, so let's do some calculations and some counting. So let's wait for the zoom in again. Oh my god, that's unbelievable. Alright, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 spans down. Okay, so we go to Google Maps, we count 14 spans. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So it was hit exactly right here. Now let's try and see which bridge it hit. Did it hit the railroad bridge or did it hit the road bridge? I can't tell you for certain. We're going to hop over real quick to this map. So we know that the KERCH Bridge major span is here. And if we look at this map, 14 span is about halfway. And wait a minute, hang on. Hang on, no, it's about right there. So we're going to go over here. Going to put this down. About, wait a minute, no, it's further up. It's more like right here. All right. So this span right here, we don't know if this is the railroad bridge or if it's the road bridge, but the Crimean bridge is on fire. So the Crimean bridge, fire. The bridge is knocked out for now. That's assured. So real quick, we're going to be putting nice red right there. We're going to make it nice and heavy. All right, and 1 second. Let's see. All right. So right there, the bridge is knocked out practically. So what does this mean for the Russians? They're screwed. Okay? That's it. I mean, like, that's literally all there is to it. If we look at this bridge, that railroad bridge and the road bridge services the entirety of the farthest west part of the southern front there is, and also all of Russia's armed forces in Ukraine. For the moment that this bridge is on fire, and after the damage is assessed and whether the bridge is still usable or not, they're going to have to change all of their supply routes from moving through Krasnodar and Rostov-on-Don towards the southern forces. Now all of their supplies are going to be moving through Rostov-on-Don and through their southern land bridge to Kherson and those areas over there. The southern forces are screwed. Oh my, I cannot believe this, Matthew. The southern forces are completely screwed over right now. They're out of supplies probably for several days. There won't be any new supplies unless it's already inside of depots in Crimea. So they probably have 48 hours of supplies, most likely, before they run out. I would assume maybe a couple of days longer, maybe at the farthest a week if they're stretching it out, until that brand new supply line can start making its way through, I guess you could say, the southern land bridge, until they can set up new depots in that area and then try and ferry the supplies over to them over the destroyed bridges. This is Putin's birthday, everyone. Happy birthday to Vladimir. We just gave him a present. The KERCH Bridge is now on fire and has been obliterated. I love it. This is great. What a way to deal with an age restriction tonight. I got so pissed off tonight, y'all. I just went and blew up the KERCH Bridge. Just because. So with that.
Take that, bots.
So with that, the bots are crying right now. They thought they got us in the first half, not gonna lie. But right now, the KERCH Bridge has now been put on fire. And it's a great night, everyone. I don't know about y'all, but hell, I feel like playing the Lee Spring Army sends its regards and the Ukrainian anthem over again tonight just for this moment. What do y'all think? What do y'all think? This is the night for celebration right here. Oh my god. Let's look at that bridge again. Let's try and figure out. Alright. So the road bridge and the railroad bridge. The railroad bridge can probably bear a higher load per cubic foot. Well, square foot, I'm assuming. The road bridge, however, probably cannot. Let's see. I see some... Man. I just can't believe it, Matthew. I cannot believe this. Is this unbelievable or what?
It is unbelievable, but Enforcer, it begs the question, because this is such a big development, how is Russia going to respond to that? Because this puts their forces in a perilous situation.
That's a great question, and while we think over that answer, we are going to run the Ukrainian anthem and the Lee Spring Army sends its regards one time in honor of the KERCH Bridge burning in a ball of flame. And so, real quick, we're going to hop over to that.
Yes. The Lee Spring Army sends its regards.
And we are back again. The Lee Spring Army sends its regards as the Crimean Bridge was just obliterated. We don't know the damage yet. We'll have to wait and see what the actual damage to the bridge is. But with that bombshell of news, we are going to return back with high spirits to the rest of the news for the night. As I'm going to be honest with y'all, the repercussions of hitting that bridge and what that will do to the Russian armed forces in both Crimea and the southwestern area of the southern front line is unfathomable. We'll just have to wait and see how that evolves over time, but that's huge news. So with that, we're now moving on back to the news in the north, as we see in the Kupiansk area that the Ukrainians have continued to lay down mortar fire in I guess you could say the east. And so here's a video of them using this nice 120mm mortar, once again courtesy of Radio Free Europe. Gosh!
Wow.
Goodness, that thing had recoil.
Ну, у нас з першого днів повномасштабного вторгнення така інтенсивність. Тому я не знаю, в напрямках, де ми були, то всюди так. Зараз дійсно йде війна артилерії. Зараз найчастіше тут це стріляють, такі снаряди прилітають. Тому я б не сказав, що зараз війна піхоти. Стрілкатня. Зараз тільки снаряди.
Also, Yukari, Yakumo, it's in r/Ukraine, if you want to go find
Це також артилерія, яка виконує свою місію. Якщо чесно, з трофеїв у нас міни трофейні, які летять їм назад. Також заряди їхні, а більш трофеїв не цікаво.
Постріл!
Як ми йшли в контрнаступ у Харкові, наша піхота говорила, що ми дуже добре мінометами їм допомогли. Я вірю хлопцям. В перші роки не було безпілотників. були тільки розвідгрупи, це люди. Планшети і навіть того, чого я не знав у 2014 році, мені Женя зараз підказав, і це дуже допомагає для стрільби.
Ні, ми якраз тільки це останню точку.
Well, you see that they're right back outside after the barrage, and they're firing off the mortar again. God, that's recoil.
That's crazy.
It is.
Пострілу, власне, міномета. Саме розрахунки цієї зброї найближче до піхоти, і вони, перш за все, підтримують тих, хто на передовій.
Міна! Постріл!
Це виход був.
Ми відбиваємо їхні наступи.
А от штурмів на цьому напрямку багато?
Бували.
Скільки разів там на день або на добу ви виходите відпрацьовувати?
Відпрацьовувати ми можемо вийти раз і до вечора.
Тобто постійно на вогневій?
Так. Да.
А чому так?
Ну, тому що треба, значить. Така наша служба. Захищати Україну.
Є!
Бачить на мене.
Давай. Там ще далі.
And with that, courtesy to Radio Free Europe for giving us an incredible insight on how the Ukrainian heavy mortar units are operating in this area of the front. And back to some breaking news real quick. We were getting more angles and videos of the Crimean Bridge on fire and burning. And so we're going to return back to that real quick with this clip taken at another angle of the fire. Actually, I believe that's the same one, so we're going to back up real quick. I'm actually going to take y'all through Reddit, because here's another angle. This time from some kind of an apartment block.
Ooh, that's a big one. That's a big fire right there.
That's a big daddy right there.
And the Russians will be trying to pass it off as a little campfire.
Yes, they probably will, and it's been burning for a while on this film.
I wonder what hit it.
I have no idea. I don't even know what would have the range to hit something on that bridge and cause a fire. But I'm going to keep this open on my side screen. Sorry if I seem distracted for the rest of the night with my news coverage. I'm going to be making sure that we can report on the Crimean Bridge as best as we can, considering that that's the largest news of the war yet. With that, we're now going to be moving down to the area of Borova, where we saw another destroyed Russian BTR. You can see a somewhat destroyed house, and then a fairly well-destroyed BTR-82, which is honestly one of Russia's smallest problems right now, considering what we just heard. And so with that, that's the end of that video, but once again, great to see that the Ukrainian armed forces are doing everything they can to push the Russians out. Moving back to Lyman, we're going to be checking out a little bit of, I guess you could say an attack on some retreating Russians. And while we watch this clip, we don't know the date, but we do know this happened days ago, as the Battle of Lyman has ended almost a week and a half ago. Well, I'm going to be looking for more news on the Crimean Bridge. And so with that, here's the video. Actually, that's a repeat of one of the videos shown elsewhere. So with that, we're going to be leaving that video, and we're going to be moving on to the next one near Kreminna, where we can see that the Russians, they weep, and the bots, they cry. As one of their most advanced tanks on the battlefield, the T-62M has been captured by the Ukrainians. They will now weep.
Ось на цьому куску війна приїхали нас звільняти. По-другому не назвеш. Машина 60-х років, єпт. І мангал зверху. Це треш.
So, it's great to see that the Ukrainians have captured another T-62M, but moving on from this news, which almost seems trivial at this point with the Crimean Bridge on fire, some of y'all have been saying, bridges don't burn. You're right, they don't burn, usually, but from what we can tell, and what I'm assuming, Apparently, there was a supply train, most likely carrying oil, that was crossing the Crimean Bridge that was hit and then caught on fire. This now begs the question on this one, Matthew. And you may remember this from a conspiracy theory that's almost become a meme at this point. How hot does a fire have to get to melt concrete?
You know, yes, I do remember that one.
There's a meme about steel beams out there on that one. But we need to ask the question, how hot does crude oil burn?
And Enforcer, while you're asking that question, it actually doesn't have to get that hot, I don't think, because I remember in Atlanta a while back, a bridge actually collapsed, made out of, like, completely out of concrete, because I believe it was a semi-truck caught on fire underneath it. So it's definitely possible it can completely collapse because of the heat.
So everyone, also that's a great point. And another thing, Matthew, crude oil burns at a temperature. No, I'm sorry, the burning temperature is 220 degrees Celsius. So if you can get it that hot, according to publications.iafss.org, 220 degrees Celsius, I guess you could say, is the point where it catches on fire. But once that fire gets going, crude oil burns at a temperature of 1400 degrees Celsius. And to transfer that into Fahrenheit, 1400 Celsius to Fahrenheit, that means that burns at a temperature of 2,552 degrees Fahrenheit. When does concrete melt?
And also, I see people saying in the live chat that concrete does not melt. You are correct, but it can get hot enough to make it, I guess you could say, unstable, where it can get softened and then collapse.
So interesting, everyone. Very, very, very interesting. Oil burns almost at the exact same temperature it takes for the melting point of concrete. Interesting. Does concrete melt or burn? Concrete is one of the most resistant building materials to heat and fire. It's made by mixing sand, aggregate stone, and cement with water and contains no flammable ingredients. What kind of concrete out there would contain... Anyways, concrete is a form of masonry like brick, clay, or stone. And like other masonry products, it does not burn. What temperatures can concrete withstand? Threshold of significant degradation of concrete is around 150 to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. For this reason, current codes and industry standards dealing with reinforced concrete structures specify a maximum temperature limit of about 150 to 200 degrees Fahrenheit or 65 to 93 degrees Celsius to ensure predictable concrete failure. Everyone.
Oh, and also Enforcer, we need to check into the melting point of the steel rebar in the concrete.
Yes, the melting point of rebar. Oh, the perfect range. It actually burns at the exact burning point of crude oil.
What do you know?
Hey, the bridge, that fire right there is going to literally burn the bridge apart. The concrete's going to become destabilized just due to the temperature. It's going to, I guess you could say, in my layman terms, it's going to mess the concrete up. And then the rebar inside of the concrete is going to get so hot that it's actually going to melt, meaning that the bridge in that span will have lost all of its structural integrity. And there is most likely absolutely no way for them to put this fire out. If y'all don't know, crude oil is nearly impossible to put out once it begins to burn. And so they're kind of just left with that, and they're going to have to wait for it to burn out. So everyone, it is time to celebrate the good times. That bridge is gone. Like, regardless of if they're able to put that fire out, or if the bridge looks like it's somewhat standing, that span is so destabilized, they will have to take the whole thing apart and rebuild it so that way anyone can use it.
And seriously, Enforcer, I know we've been joking about it's Putin's birthday, but seriously, like, it actually is his birthday, and this is all happening on his birthday. This must suck for him. And good that it's happening, too. Like, what a perfect day for it to happen.
I know, what a great day for this to happen. It's Putin's birthday. It's literally actually happened. They've done something on a symbolic date, Putin's birthday. That's kind of petty in a way, but it's also hilarious as all get out that they're going to burn the bridge down on the day of his birthday. Who knows? I mean, they may have been able to do this for weeks, and they've just waited for this moment to mess with the Russians. The propagandist is actually right. They are doing all this to mess with Putin's birthday, and that's the funniest thing in the war yet, honestly. I mean, like, this is hilarious. Yes. The Ukrainians are doing so well, they are literally trolling the Russians at this point. They're just messing with them. I don't even know where to go anymore with the news. I mean, the rest of it isn't even worth covering with this in mind. But we're going to continue to cover it and knock all of it out. So with that, we're going to be. I'm sorry if I seem spaced out for the rest of the night, because that's just was mind blowing. But with this next one, we're going to see the Ukrainians firing at the Russians. And someone said it's not his birthday anymore in Europe. That doesn't matter. The bridge caught on fire on his birthday. Now see the Ukrainians posting up a little machining there, and they're starting to fire it at the Russians. This is small fry business compared to what's literally brewing down in the middle of the Kerch Strait right now. Now see them continuing to fire out of the windows as I try and find more news on the Kerch Bridge. It's a happy day. We're interrupting this video real quick, Matthew, because I just found something. Oh man, this is.
What is it?
Oh man, I can't even say it.
What is it?
Here it is. Here it is. I'm showing it to y'all. This is on the Crimean Bridge.
Oh.
It's the railroad bridge.
Oh. That means it's burning very hot.
Yes.
And that's good news.
Oh my god! This is probably on the most important part of the bridge. You can see it's
Now,
not on the road bridge, it's on the railroad bridge.
Enforcer, would that be ironic that if it was actually the Russians that set their own fire by accident, the Russian chain smoker strikes again?
Wouldn't it be? Because I'm looking at this, and apparently someone said that Russia Today said that it was an oil tanker that got caught in the spans under the bridge and then caught on fire. But then again, just saying, if that was the case, I feel like the oil tanker would have actually just exploded, and we haven't seen the explosion. It looks like a slow rolling fire, but I don't see a train on the bridge. Or do we? That kind of looks like a oil tanker car right there. Maybe. I can't really tell you for certain. Oh my god. That is literally the sun. The sun is on the bridge now. And also another thing, some of y'all may know that I'm a huge logistics guy. I'm all into logistics on this channel. And as y'all may know, the Russians are transporting almost all of their supplies as close as they can to the front line by rail. So it's far better that the railroad bridge is on fire than the road bridge, because now that means that they have to transport all of the equipment across the Crimean Bridge, which is somebody once told me. But let me get the actual, let's see. About 12 miles in length. So they now have to create a fob down here. They have to also create a railroad station to unload these trains at. Then they have to load it onto trucks and then drive the trucks, which will be an incredibly... I guess you could say, cumbersome process across the 12-mile bridge to the other side, to some train, then load up that train, and then move it on from there. Do y'all know how difficult that's going to be and how many trucks they're going to need to be able to pull off something like that? I don't even think they have the trucks. They're out of them. Like Dallas Borakua said, they're out of trucks. They don't even have the ability to do that anymore. They're done. They're screwed. I mean, like, that's it. I'm saying that's it a lot. But that's literally the bottom line. They are screwed now. That bridge is unusable. With that, we're now moving on to this video again. Now see them loading the grenade launcher on the AK again. See them looking out into the distance once more. and firing off the grenade. Well, not yet, actually.
Сейчас еще 2 блока є.
So that
And Enforcer, I do have a little bit of extra news. I've been looking through Twitter to see if I can find anything extra. It looks like a lot of people are saying there was a massive explosion and then the prolonged fire that we're watching on the videos.
Interesting. I'm still trying to wait and find more videos on it. If you do have them, Matthew, send them to me over Discord. So that way I can make sure to click on them, make sure they're like from Reddit or Twitter or something similar. But with that, I don't see... Hang on, I'm looking through a whole bunch of stuff because someone said Russia Today actually reported on this. Oh no, they haven't. They haven't reported on it, y'all. The Russia Today news network is completely silent on this. So with that, we're now moving down to the nets.
Enforcer, they've got to scramble. They're meeting right now to determine how they're going to try to play this off.
They're playing Dance of the Swan on Russian TV right now as a whole political coup is starting because the war is over. But with that, we're now moving on into Donetsk to cover this news real quick. We can see the Russians attempting to intercept HIMARS missiles over this town, but from what we can tell, they only intercepted maybe one, but not a lot of them. So here's the video.
Что-то какая-то хуйня летит в натуре жестко.
Пизда, короче, домой надо.
О боже!
О
Что
боже!
это? Тут такое произошло, горит что-то.
Молодцы.
Oh, damn, Matthew! Oh my god, the road bridge has been taken out too! The spans are in the water!
What?
The spans are
No
in the water,
way.
and the train's
How
on
did that
fire!
happen?
Oh my god! Okay, both of them have been knocked out.
How? Now, how in the world did the road bridge get taken out?
There is no tanker in that whole picture.
There's
no
not.
tanker to be seen.
That had to be an airstrike of some sort, I think.
Oh my god! I don't even know how this happened, but this is incredible. Hang on, everyone. Hang on. I gotta tell some of my friends to get on here. The McRib is back. Hang on. Hang on, everyone. I gotta tell. Let's see. Hang on.
And I'm just looking through Twitter here, Enforcer. It looks like I see all the videos that we've already shown, and also just a couple of pictures here. I'm also looking through Discord. I see some folks sending me pictures there as well. I'm trying to keep up with all of it. It looks like it's flowing in pretty fast. Let's see here. See some more pictures of it. That is insane that the road bridge has collapsed.
Hang on 1 second. I'm trying to get all of my friends on the stream because I can't believe this.
Wow. Okay, I've got a better picture of the road bridge collapsed. It's collapsed in multiple sections, or leading right down into the water.
1 second, y'all. 1 second. Get on. The KERCH bridge is gone. All right. So send that to me over Discord, Matthew. I'll hop over there real quick and I'll find it. I'm sorry, everyone. I actually think that we will not be able to resume our normal news coverage of the frontline events that have occurred in the Donetsk area tonight. We will most likely have to forego those videos as we are covering actual breaking news as the KERCH bridge has been destroyed by some kind of a Ukrainian strike or some form of sabotage. So with that, send that to me, Matthew, real quick, and we're going to take a look at that as well.
Okay, and I'm trying to get that sent over right now.
You know, Matthew, I was just
working.
I was just wondering, Matthew, why is it always when we're running our stream, world-changing events happen? Like every single time our stream is on, something has happened.
Yes, it's crazy. We always catch it just in time.
Yeah, like Shinzo Abe happened, Queen Elizabeth happened on stream. All of this stuff has happened on stream. And this has happened on stream. Like, we are, like, this is the best time to run the news, y'all. Like, everyone else that runs live streams, for some reason, no major news happens then. For some reason, it's only at the 10 p.m. to around 1 a.m. Eastern time, area that has the major news happen. I have no idea why that's the case, but let me go over to Discord real quick. Alright, so, I'm going to go click on this Twitter. Oh my god.
It's leading right down into the water in multiple sections.
Oh my god, that's like 2 or 3 spans that are just gone. They'll never recover that. Those will be like that forever. Oh my god, can you believe that we're actually seeing this?
I can't even believe it. And Enforcer, it's really weird to me. This might be ignorant to say, but the road bridge is like down in the exact same spot on the other side where the train is on fire. I would be like very hard pressed to think this was a accident by the Russians at this point. I think this was definitely something done by the Ukrainians.
This had to have been a Ukrainian attack because the Russians, according to our viewers, have put out a story that some kind of a Russian tanker has caught on fire near the bridge, but there is no tanker in sight. There's a train on the railroad bridge that is now on fire, and the bridge spans on the road side of the bridge, which aren't even at the same height as the railroad, which is on fire, have completely collapsed. There is no way that this is not a Ukrainian attack on the bridge. So real quick, everyone, I'm going to go pull up the other picture, so that way we can have several of them. So here we go. I've got the other picture here. Honestly, it looks like there's even a third span down here that's been knocked out. It's not all the way in the water, but it's still slanted.
That's crazy.
Oh my god, I can't believe this.
And it looks like this train was nothing but tanker cars. Am I correct?
It looks like there are a couple of grain hoppers closer to the front, or cement hoppers. But yeah, you are correct. Most of this train is made up of oil tankers.
And I see, let's see, actually, decent question from Mick Ranger. He says, are you sure that this is the KERCH bridge? Because from the road shot, it didn't look anything like this.
Great question. Excellent question. We're going to circle back real quick, just so that way I can show you all this. We're going to go to the video clip I have of the KERCH bridge on fire. There's only one bridge in the world that looks like this, and it's the KERCH bridge. So, real quick, we'll show this again. Let me put this on the max graphics. We called the Russians lacking again in 480 nonetheless. Hang on, it's not going into high definition. Let me rewind that again. Alright, so right there you can see the arch. And if we go over onto Google Maps just to show real quick, you can see the arch right there. So I just wanted to make sure to allay anyone's suspicions that this may be another bridge. This is the KERCH bridge. And when we look at these pictures, you can clearly tell that by its layout, that is the KERCH bridge. If we look at this picture, and we go back to this area, you can see hardly, you can see it. Watch as the road span here, notice that the shadows, closer to the actual spans themselves, are the similar length. And as we get back towards that 14th span, the shadow on the road side of the bridge is a lot shorter, showing that it's lower to the sea than the railroad bridge. And so this picture lines up with exactly what we are seeing. That is the KERCH bridge. And it's on fire, and the road span's been destroyed. The railroad span will go most likely within the hour.
Also, Enforcer, there's another picture that I got this time from one of our mods, Icelid, in the Discord if you want to check that out.
Alright, sweet. So can you send that to me over our DM?
Yeah, and it is in there.
I got you. We can go find it real quick. Alright, so we got another one. Alright, so this is the opposite angle of the bridge. We can see the spans clearly in the water. We can see the oil tankers on fire. That fire will most likely spread from oil car to oil car. They most likely won't be able to get any firefighting forces to that area of the bridge. And so these things will continue to burn at such a high heat and temperature that the concrete and the rebar in this bridge will be structurally unsound and will most likely collapse. The bridge is gone! It's gone! We need to figure out what this means for Russian logistics. That's what we need to figure out, exactly. We need to calculate up some kind of losses. So, real quick, let's start drawing lines. So, we know that most everything is coming from Krasnodar Rail Yard, most likely. Although it could be coming from other places. So let me find the Krasnodar rail yard. Let's see, it's about right here. I can't believe we were on for such a historic moment. This is war changing. This is probably world changing, honestly. But we're going to do this. This is the Russian rail line. All right, to the KERCH.
I gotta say, Enforcer, this is like our craziest like news night we've ever had. I'm just looking through all the different pictures and things that I'm getting sent by the viewers and also our mods. And thank you very much for sending those to me. And also looking through our Twitter over here. And it's insane. This is like some of the biggest, wildest news I've seen so far.
There's no way to say it. This is the craziest night of news we've ever had. Breaking news happened in our stream. News that pertains directly to the war and how it will turn out for the rest of all time. So real quick, this green area here, this green line is going to indicate the Russian supply line that is still intact, but the bridge is knocked out. We're going to be drawing all the lines over here in salmon pink, showing where this most likely supplied. So we're going to put down a line from KERCH all the way down the Crimean Peninsula, most likely parallel with the road until we get to here. So that will be supply. All right. Alright, so now we need to figure out, let's just pull this up. Railroad map of Crimea. Alright. Funnily enough, it's actually an incredibly simple railway map. And almost got all of it correct, like with how it's laid out. It's almost directly parallel with the road. So we can see that it goes down to Feodosia, and then up towards Armyansk. So we're going to draw that line out in salmon pink, because it's knocked out now. So we're going to take this. Boom, 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 boom. We're going to follow this highway, considering it almost follows the highway. So we know that Dzhankoy is a supply depot. We also know that Armyansk is also a supply depot that's being supplied within Crimea itself. So we're going to put that down. Supply. So this means that every unit that was attached to the area, well, a supply hub in Dzhankoy and Armyansk is wiped out. Supplies will no longer exist for them until the overland route can be established through southern Ukraine, and that will become the primary supply line for these forces here. So everything in Dzhankoy and Armyansk is now without a direct connection to a supply line, and they'll be existing off of the remaining supplies they have left. We're going to take a look at that railroad map again. We're actually going to scoot this all the way down here. And we can see that the next things are Balaclava, like the Balaclava headgear, and Sevastopol. And it appears that the rail line from there actually starts at Dzhankoy, at least the major one, and then it heads down to Simferopol, then towards the coast, and then towards Sevastopol. We're also going to put down the minor railroad networks as well. So, Dzhankoy, all the way down here. Now, Matthew, I think you would be okay if I want to make sure before we go on with the marathon stream tonight, because we are going to be watching.
Of course, we have to.
We're going to be watching history unfold within these next few hours, and we're going to be seeing what happens as a result of it. And so we can see Alushta. We're now moving down to here, past Yalta, down towards Opolzhneve, then Feroz, and then up towards Balaclava, and then into Sevastopol itself.
And also, real quick, if you want to send me any pictures that you have found on the internet anywhere, please go over to the Discord and DM me. I'm Enforcer Matt on Discord. I've gotten a lot of good pictures, and I am forwarding them to the Enforcer. So let me know if you see anything before I do.
So real quick, everyone, 1 second. If y'all are wondering why I'm a little quiet, I'm trying to focus on drawing out these supply lines the best I can across all of Crimea. And we can see, here we go, we'll connect that one. Supply line. And we'll put this down here. All right. And then finally, I think the last major one that we really need to carry. Well, actually, there's two. And we'll just draw out the whole thing in one giant group. Let's see here. We'll put it here, and then we'll start moving down this highway to Simferopol.
And also, for those asking, the Discord is down. The link for the invite to the Discord is down in the description below. You can click on that. It'll bring you into our server. And from there, you can find me, Enforcer Matt, and DM me from there.
All right, so let's see. We got... Oh my god, wait a minute. There was actually a railroad connection to Saki. Like a direct railroad connection to the Saki airfield. All right.
Really?
Yes, and then it appears to have terminated at Yevpatoria. So, supply. So what we're looking at right here, what I've labeled on this map, in the salmon pink color, is all of the supply lines by railroad throughout all of Crimea. Look at Steve Palmquist said, not destroyed. I would have to say the pictures actually show the opposite of that, man. Like, let's calm down there with that kind of statement, because those spans in the water, I haven't really seen the supply trucks drive into the Crimean or the Black Sea or the Sea of Azov yet. So I would have to say that's probably not the design specifications of the bridge. But moving on from that and back to this, we now are going to say this. One thing that we can tell for certain is that the Saki Air Base, along with all of the air bases in Crimea, are now completely devoid of supplies. They no longer have a supply connection. All of those have been knocked out. So now we need to pull up, now that we've gotten a railroad map of Crimea, we need to pull up an airbase map of Crimea. Alright. So, airbase map of Crimea. Images. We're going to try and find something as best we can that shows us probably where most of them are. So we can see one at Dezhonkoy, Saki, and also one north of Simferopol. The only one that was not obliterated before the Kerch Bridge was destroyed was the one north of Simferopol, which we have seen before, and you can see it here on Google Maps. It's right here. You see the jets that they have. They have Su-25s and also Su-24s here. And so it appears to be a tactical bomber wing, and they also have some Su-30. Really, actually, no. Su-24s, it appears right here. So it does, well, I don't know, those might be Su-30s. We're not going to pass judgment on that, but that's the only airbase that was intact before, and even if they were able to recover the Saki airfield is now without supplies. We're going to fill in that area with a black square, as that airfield will no longer be operational due to supply outages. So, Saki.
And Enforcer, while you're typing that up, I just have to say, it's so interesting that none of the mainstream outlets have even begun to touch this yet. This is so breaking. It's happened within, like, what, the last 30 minutes?
Past 20 minutes. The Crimean Bridge has been destroyed. Once again, if you were coming into the stream right now, the Crimean Bridge has been destroyed. There are pictures surfacing on the internet, like this one, showing the spans in the water and oil train on fire, and the heat from the oil train will destroy the railroad spans as well. If you have any family or friends that have not heard of this news and are avid into listening to Ukraine war news, right now is the time to wake them up and tell them to get on, as we are the only YouTube channel and news network, as far as we know, in the entire world that is covering the destruction of the Kerch Bridge. So make sure to get them on, and make sure, if you like this news, because we're on at the time that almost everything around the world happens, make sure to subscribe, as we're going to keep covering this as much as we can through the night. And also, just in case, I don't know, we may have to make a special stream on Sunday or Saturday, Matthew, because I don't know if we'll be able to answer. We will try, though. Let me say this. We will try to answer all of the Super Chats tonight, considering this breaking news. I hope everyone understands, but we will try and answer as many of them as we can. So, with that, let me get back to this airbase map. Simferopol.
And also, Enforcer, whenever we get done with this segment, we do have a couple of polls we can go over, too.
Got you. 1 second, everyone. I'm trying to add a line, and it's not wanting to add. There we go. There's this airfield. This airfield's now been knocked out as well. We're going to call this one the Simferopol airfield. We're now going to highlight that in black. That airfield has also been destroyed. And finally, the one north of Dezhonkoy is also destroyed. Well, not destroyed. I would say that it's supply deficit, to say the least. So we're going to put that one in black as well. And of course, this map is available to all of y'all. I don't know if it updates live, but right now, the 3 airfields that we know of and we can confirm that the Russians were using inside of Crimea are completely supply deficient. Those aircraft will have to move out of Crimea and back into Russia unless if they want to run out of supplies and fuel to even be able to fly them, as they will not be supplied any longer due to the railroad lines being knocked out. That also means that all of the ground forces in Crimea as well are completely devoid of supplies. They will have to exist off of their stores and wait for a long and incredibly cumbersome supply line to be set up from Rostov-on-Don that will then enter Crimea from the north and then spread its supplies out further south. That is going to be so inefficient that the supplies may as well not even exist. And so now we're going to be pulling up a railroad map of Kherson region.
Also, Enforcer, we do have more footage now. Thanks to a viewer, Decky. Thank you very much for sending me that video from Twitter. It's an up-close video of the fire itself, and it's in your Discord DM.
Got you. We got a brand new video, everyone. Thank you to the viewer who sent this in, of the Crimean Bridge on fire from another angle. When you see the fire right here, just 14 spans away from the major arch. The train is on fire. We have not seen him turn around, but we do know that the spans behind this man are destroyed. That's the end of that video, and thank you so much to the viewer that sent that in. We're going to be keeping all of these links up, so that way we can go back and show them every once in a while. But oh my god, I just can't believe it. The Crimean, the bridge is gone. It's gone forever. It most likely will not come back in the whole course of this war. So let me get a railroad map of Ukraine. When we see that there was only one railroad that went to Kherson, and it's the railroad from Armyansk to Kherson. So we're going to outline that real quick. The entire supply weight of the Kherson front was being supplied from the KERCH bridge alone, most likely. That was the shortest distance a train had to travel to get to Kherson. So real quick, we're going to draw this line, the final line on this map. And then we're going to start going over the units that will, of course, be afflicted by this loss. And we're going to stop this railroad right here at Sahi because it doesn't cross the Kherson River. So we'll call this supply. And it will be also put in salmon pink, denoting that that has been destroyed. And the Russians are starving of wood supplies. So all of the areas in red were directly fed, most likely, logically, it would be a decent assumption to make, from the KERCH bridge. So now, here's the question. We're going to draw this out real quick. It's going to be a very crude one. What's the distance from Krasnodar, across the KERCH bridge, to Kherson, versus from Rostov-on-Don to Novokakhovka? Or to Kherson.
Also, Enforcer, quick note on the title. You might want to add a Crimean KERCH bridge burning also to the title, just that way we make sure we get maximum coverage here.
Got you. So, line, we'll put that there. We just need this line for measurements. This is a 348-mile long trip, very similar to the same amount of distance that would be covered from a train from London to Edinburgh. So let's go ahead and measure Rostov-on-Don out to figure out how far supplies would have to travel to get to Kherson or Novokakhovka from here. And so we'll start off here. Railroads around Mariupol are most likely destroyed, so we'll have to take a detour north around the city and towards Bilmak, and then down towards Tokmak, Melitopol. And let me make sure this is correct to the railroad map. It is. That is correct to the railroad map. So now we go down to here, and then to here. What about this? There is no connecting railroads to Kherson, so the farthest that they can get to Kherson is Novokakhovka. A distance of 336 miles versus a distance of... Hang on. 348 miles. So, interestingly enough, it actually looks like the overland route is a little bit shorter in length compared to the Crimean route, but at the same time, that is not including the distance that one would have to cover to enter Crimea and then supply all of those units off of a single supply line. At least when they had the Crimean Bridge, they could supply both the Crimea, the southern front, and also the rest of it south of Zaporizhia with two entirely separate supply lines. Now, they cannot do that at all because this one's been knocked out. Everything in salmon pink, once again, is supply lines that can no longer be used by rail by the Russians. And also, that means that the entirety of the southern front now has to rely on the supplies brought in by one rail line instead of two. And that's even if it can cross the Dnipro River. So with that in mind, this is a bit of a night This has been a bit of a night for sure. I think this is one that is going to be a little historical. I don't know about y'all, but October 7th is going to go down in the books as a very important day in world history. And so with that, I let Antonina said roadside is okay. Nah, I don't think so.
Probably not. Probably not.
Probably not. I don't mean to say things with certainty. Take it with a grain of salt, massive grains of salt. But I don't think the roadside is okay. Just saying. I don't think they'll even be able to drive over the bridge with that kind of damage. Also, moving back over here, I don't think the roadside's okay. That's the roadside, and it's in the water. So with that, massive news. Don't really think we'll have news like this again, ever. And also, real quick, Matthew, what should the title be changed to again?
I would probably say KERCH Bridge has been hit, or KERCH Bridge has been knocked out, or something along those lines.
KERCH Bridge burning and destroyed.
And also, Enforcer, when you get done changing around the title, I see a lot of viewers asking, also, I'd be curious myself to see if maybe Operator Starsky is available, maybe to hop on for just a brief minute to maybe give us some more information about this if he has some.
Got you. I'm going to call in Operator Starsky real quick, everyone. So hopefully he's awake. We're going to give him a ring.
And also, please hit the like, too, if you're still watching as well. It looks like we have 8,700 people watching. So hit the like so the news can get out to more people as well. And we do appreciate it very much.
1 second, everyone. I'm calling Starsky right now. Hopefully he picks up.
And make sure to tell him he's on speaker.
Hey, what's up, Starsky? You are on air right now on this phone call, and I was just wondering, did you hear that the KERCH Bridge has been destroyed?
Not really, because I was sleeping.
Oh, well, I was just wondering, and about 8,700 people were wondering right now, if you could come on stream, because the KERCH Bridge was just destroyed 20 minutes ago.
Oh, sounds nice. Okay, guys, I will join you in a couple of minutes then.
Gotcha, man. We will see you on stream, man. We're not lying. We'll show you the pictures once you get on stream. It's gone.
All right. Sounds like great news. Okay, I'll be right there.
Gotcha, man. I'll see you then. All right. And so
that man's a legend.
He is a legend. He's like, I was asleep. I'm like, the bridge is gone. And so we're going to get Operator Starsky on in just a second, everyone. Y'all are actually going to see, I guess, a little bit of our behind the scenes with how we get people on Discord and stuff, because you and me, Matthew, we're actually going to have to go and get in a group call with Starsky in a minute once he says that he can hop on. So everyone give us just a little bit while we try and make sure that those logistics can work in the background. That most likely will happen in about 5 to 10 minutes. And also, Joshua, we will apologize to him for waking him up, but I think this is a moment that we need to wake people up for.
Indeed. And also, since Starsky did just wake up, it's unlikely he'll have any new information, but he does have inside information that we may not be privy to about the bridge, so he can provide some insight as to what exactly has been knocked out.
Yeah, so with that, we're going to cover the news again, just in case if you were new. The KERCH Bridge in between Crimea and Russia has been hit and destroyed by some kind of a Ukrainian attack or some kind of an explosive. We have seen that multiple bridge spans on the road bridge have fallen into the sea, and we've also seen that the railroad bridge is on fire as an oil tanker has apparently ruptured and is now leaking oil that burns at 1440 degrees, 1,440 degrees Celsius on the bridge, which is hot enough to melt the rebar inside the concrete and also make the concrete structurally unstable, meaning that these two spans of the bridge have been destroyed as we speak. We've also gotten several videos from Twitter and pictures showing other angles of the bridge that has been destroyed, and we also have another video here that shows the bridge clearly on fire as the oil tankers continue to burn on the railroad side of the bridge. That's once again that video. We're going to be hopping over to our other videos as well. Yes, that's correct.
And also, I did see somebody ask, excuse my ignorance, but can you please tell me who Operator Starsky is? And Enforcer, would you like to give an overview?
Operator Starsky is the coolest Ukraine war YouTuber out there. He was actually at the Hostomel airport on February 24th when the Russian VDV landed there. He was at that airport when that happened. He's been a great friend of ours. He's also helped us to fundraise a whole load on stream in support for Ukraine. He's a cool guy. You can pull him up on YouTube. Just type in Operator Starsky. He's the first thing to pop up. He makes great videos, and he's also making some really good jokes. And I think he's going to have loads of content here with this picture. And so, real quick, we're going to go to this video, and we're also going to try and keep everything categorized as best we can. So we're going to go to this video again just to show y'all the actual video footage, because we use picture and video evidence on this channel. Here's the video of the fire from a distance on the KERCH bridge. So here it is. You can see the KERCH bridge in the distance, you can see the fire, and right below that fire are destroyed road spans. Man. Oh my god, it's unbelievable. Real quick, man, is Operator Starsky online as of right now? I'm actually going to move this over to the second screen.
Let's see. Let me try to get over there and take a look real quick. Let's see here. My second monitor is acting up on me, of course. Of all times, it had to act up right now, so let's let it get booted back up real quick. There we go. Let's see. You might be able to look faster than me, Enforcer.
And what am I looking for again? I forgot. I'm trying to, like, do so many things right now.
Looking to see if Starsky's on the line.
Alright. So let me go check. Let me move that over to that side. And, let me find...
Things are going so fast over here on my end. I'm getting like 1,000 DMs. I'm trying to sort through all this news.
Alright, he is online. I'm going to go and get us all into our little group. So 1 second, I'll go and make that call. Let's see. Let's see here. I'm sorry, everyone. I'm sorry if we are seeming a little bit unprofessional right now. We are trying to get Operator Starsky on stream. So real quick, allow me to call all of them. And Matthew, there will be a slight interruption in our call. So real quick, we're going to start a new one. All right. So Operator Starsky is here. Operator Starsky, I know you just woke up, so if you need a little bit of time to get ready, I'm also going to fill you in. You should be able to see my screen because we just got news that the KERCH bridge has been hit. There are road spans in the water, and there is an oil train that is on fire on the railroad spans, which will lead to those becoming structurally compromised and destroyed. So our first video that we got tonight was of the KERCH bridge at a distance on fire. We can see over here 14 spans down from the central span on the Ukrainian side, there's a fire. Moving on into our second video, we also got another video from the bridge itself showing those oil cars on fire there. Also, I think we're having that glitch where Operator Starsky talks, but we can't hear him.
Oh no.
Because his little thing on the screen is showing up as green, but I can't hear him.
I can't remember what we did last time to fix it.
I can't remember. I think we restarted the call. Wait a minute, no, we went to the server.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. We might have to do that again.
Starsky, if you can hear us on stream or in this call, hop over to the Discord server, get in a general voice call, and then we'll drag you into the one that we use for the stream. So give us all just a second, everyone, real quick. My DMs are being bombarded right now with people who are saying a million things. There's like 100 DMs right now. So let me go down here, and I'll hop in this call room, everyone. So we'll drag Starsky in as soon as possible. All right, everyone, and we're just waiting for Matthew and Operator Starsky to join our call. Let's see here. 1 second, everyone. 1 second. Create invite. We need to go make one for Operator Starsky. All right. Try and say something real quick, Operator Starsky.
Hello.
All right, we can hear you. Matthew should be in the call real soon. But did you see? Oh, let me screen share again real quick. Did you see the footage that I just showed a bit ago, like a minute ago?
Yes, I did. Looks very nice. Before hopping between bed and computer, I checked the news, and yes, I have information that the train went off for some reason. But yeah, I wasn't able to check if it was due to the strike. But yeah, I can see that part of the bridge went under the water.
It did! The road spans are under the water. Matthew should be joining the call here soon, hopefully. Real quick, let me see if he is able to. There should be an invite for him. Give me just a second. I'm going to run over to his office real quick and see if he can hop in the call. So I'll be right back.
That is interesting. So, from what I can see with my eyes, is that probably this bridge was destroyed by some kind of strike, which includes maybe using missiles. Probably it could be also damaged by explosives. So this could be some kind of sabotage, in my opinion.
Well, I right now, all we got is opinions to go off of. We have no idea how this happened to the bridge, but one thing I do have to say is that the train is on fire, and it's at a much higher elevation than that part of the road bridge where the spans were destroyed. And from what we've heard from some viewers, there has been some Russian outlet somewhere or someone saying that an oil tanker had caught on fire under the bridge, but we don't see an oil tanker in this picture. And so I'm kind of trying to figure out logically, how are the road spans on the farthest other end, away from the railroad bridge, destroyed, and the railroad bridge is also on fire? And I'm thinking it may be, now this is a bit of a stretch, but it may be that little boat that I actually had someone share with me. It was actually Jay Bagwell, who watches the stream a load, that may have been put under that bridge and exploded. I'm not entirely sure though.
Yeah, could be, because currently I'm checking Ukrainian news, and everyone says that so here is something very, very funny. Just a second. According to deputy of the Crimean leader, meaning the Russian leader, so the bridge is not damaged. There is just fire.
Well, I gotta show y'all this. We just got a brand new video right when you were saying that. Here is a video on the bridge showing those spans, because I just saw someone else in the live chat say it's Photoshop. The spans are gone. They're gone.
Dang.
And the ones on the right side also look like they're sagging.
I mean, maybe they were meant to look like that. I don't know.
I mean, you know, the Russians do look pretty stupid when they're in the military. Maybe their engineers just designed it like this. That's a pretty tough bridge to drive on, though. But
to me, it looks like they collapsed completely, because we're looking at about something like 500 meters of, bridge going down.
That's true. It's like, look, there's a car over there, and it's just a dot. Wait a minute, there's not a car over there. Correction. It looks like some kind of a barricade or something. But that's like the whole bridge. And we can tell clearly that this side isn't intact either, because way down there, right at the other end, when you see that it goes inwards in a V shape. And so we know that that span is probably about to go too, or at least it's not capable of carrying any kind of load. Also, real quick, Starsky, I want to apologize for calling you on stream, because I know that we're supposed to give you a day's advance, but I felt like tonight would have been the night if I could do this one time in the war to call you on, because I think this is game changing.
Could be. Yeah. So I think that a bunch of those, how do you call those? Jesus Christ.
The spans?
Yeah. So a bunch of them collapsed and dragged like part of that whole bridge because you see it's like inclined. It's not supposed to be like that. I wonder what the what the heck has happened.
I think we're all wondering what has happened. And also, real quick, Starsky, just in case, if you need to go get coffee or anything, we can cover for a moment because I know that you got on like within minutes of waking up. So if you have to go tend to anything, we can cover for a bit while you get like I guess woken up for a brilliant day today. So just let us know, and if you need to, we will cover. We'll do another recap in the meantime.
Sounds great, bro. I will be back in just 3 minutes then.
Got you. All right, so everyone, while Operator Starsky leaves for a second, we are going to recap this news one more time just in case we have new people joining. The KERCH bridge has been destroyed just within the past hour, as we've seen in this video. The first video we ever found, and the first one put on the internet from what we can find, the KERCH bridge was on fire from a distance. From what we can tell, this fire began at 6 o'clock in the morning, and we can see that it's 14 spans east of the central span over the Crimean side of the Kerch Strait. Moving on into the next video, we can see that the fire is actually on the railroad bridge. Actually, that's a picture. And you can also see the jutting of spans on the road bridge into the water. When we move on to the next video, you can actually see that that train is burning a blistering hot fire on that bridge. We did the math earlier on. We found out that crude oil, which is most likely what's being transported there, burns at a temperature of around 1440 degrees Celsius, which is similar to 2500 degrees Fahrenheit. It takes around 13 to 1400 degrees Celsius to melt rebar inside of concrete, and it only takes a temperature of around 150 to 200 degrees Fahrenheit to create structurally unsound concrete. And so this fire has definitely created unstable spans in the railroad bridge. Moving on into the next little pictures that we also got a picture from a decent ways out at sea, in the Sea of Azov, of the bridge spans that have been collapsed. We can also see the train on fire from that area, and we can also see over here another picture of the spans that have been taken down on the road side of the bridge. And from this last video that we just got seconds ago, if I can find it again, we can see a person on the Kerch bridge show us. Also, Matthew, I just noticed that span is already sagging.
It is actually. I just noticed that from another video as well. It's sagging even worse.
And we can also see right here that these spans furthest north on the Crimean bridge have fallen into the sea, and the road spans furthest south towards the railroad bridge are also sagging as well and have taken some kind of heavy damage and most likely will be knocked out completely within the next few hours or completely unusable by the Russians. And so once again, just to recap this for everyone who just joined, the Kerch Bridge is now officially destroyed on Putin's birthday of all days. Unbelievable. We are still waiting for Operator Starsky to come back, and at any time, if you can hear us right now, Starsky, as soon as you come back, just interrupt us and say hello or something so we know you're back, but take your time. There's no rush at all. This is go ahead.
And also, Enforcer, real quick, I have to knock some of these polls out of the way real quick because they are piling up on me a little bit, and I want to make room for some more polls as well. So the first one here says, do you think that the burning of the Kerch Bridge will devastate Russian forces in the region? It looks like 71% of you believe that this will crush their forces. 23% said, I don't know, and 7% said, no, the Russians will adapt and overcome. And as we can see, the Russians rarely adapt and overcome anything. That's not their forte. So it looks to me like this is going to crush their forces. And I'm not going to take any thunder away from the second poll. So, Enforcer, what are your thoughts about that poll?
I would have to entirely agree with the majority of y'all that this has completely decimated the Russians' furthest west forces in the country, both inside of Crimea and Kherson. As we can see right here, the rail routes that we mapped out earlier using a railway map of Ukraine, showing all of the railroads within Crimea, the major railways that can support military, I guess you could say, traffic. Now we can see that all of this, everything that's within probably 30 to 50 miles of these railroad tracks, are completely knocked out of supplies here forward. They will not be able to get supplies as quickly as they once did because it's going to have to come over the land bridge all the way from Rostov-on-Don to Melitopol and then to Kherson or Crimea, instead of from the faster and much more convenient KERCH bridge, which then went to Crimea. So all of the Russian air bases in Crimea are now removed from the war, and they no longer have the supplies to support the aircraft that are based there. All of the soldiers and air defense units inside of Crimea are now without supplies and will be living off of whatever they have there until they can get new supplies, which most likely will not come. And we already know that the Kherson area is already in some very precarious trouble, considering all 3 bridges across the river were destroyed prior, and we now know certainly that the Kherson area is screwed because they will rely entirely, their entire supply line will rely on one railroad that transports itself from Rostov-on-Don north of Mariupol to Melitopol and then to Novokakhovka. If the Ukrainians can knock out a bridge or something else along that single rail line, the entire Kherson area is devoid of any kind of supplies whatsoever. And that's even if it can cross the Dnipro River safely. And so for that reason, the Kherson area is completely lost. Mostly everything in the west, most likely lost for the time being, and everything in Crimea has now gone completely without supplies and most likely will be in its dying moments in the next coming days and weeks. And so with all of that in mind, we have seen a historic night as the Ukrainians apparently have been able to hit or destroy the KERCH bridge. I'm leaning more towards the Ukrainians being able to destroy the bridge because the damage, if we look at the pictures, is extensive. The road bridge and the railroad bridge were both hit in the same area at the same time at different elevations. And so with that, we're going to see, well, actually, no, we're not going to see because then that's kind of rushing. And we'll wait for Operator Starsky to come back. But since we've answered that poll, we're now going to move on to the next one.
All right. And our next poll said, how do you think Russia will respond to the crucial Kerch bridge being knocked out? It looks like 46% said the response will be severe, 21% said the response will be mild, and 33% said that the Russians will not have a response. Now, I think the person that's going to be best equipped to answer this question is going to be Operator Starsky, but until he gets back, he can't answer that question. Oh, I think he might be here.
And he's back.
Yeah, guys, I'm back. I was checking the news. So, in my opinion, first response can be we gotta check what they're saying, right? We gotta check their messages, and in case this was prepared by Russians, for example, to blame Ukrainian side and I don't know, unleash their demons. So we should expect a bunch of news about, oh my god, huge terrorist act involving, I don't know, multiple victims among civilians and stuff. But what we see now is different messages, specifically from Chief of Crimea, from Crimean authorities, that the bridge is okay, it still stands, and everything's fine, everything is planned. So I don't think that they expected that. On the other hand, guys, I checked this information quite a few years ago, and during the World War II times, when Crimea was under German Nazi occupation, so they had this plan to build the same bridge in order to be able to bring their troops to Krasnodar region of Russia. And they didn't do that because they made an assessment, and it appeared that there are two tectonic plates that move against each other. And no bridge can be built there because it will be destroyed eventually. So yeah, and for example, that there's like this Tuzla island that is moving. Yeah, probably we're talking about like some smaller scale. But that information was assessed by Germans yet in the times of the World War II. That's why they never built that bridge while they had such an intention. Probably one of the reasons, I don't know. But on the other hand, guys, every time I see, for example, President Zelensky talking about this, he's overly confident, and it like he knows something. So I think we should expect some kind of official information from Ukrainian side as well.
Hopefully we do. And also another thing, Starsky, that we noted while you were away from the stream is that in this picture, I'm trying to find it real quick. We could see. Hang on, where did that picture go? We had it on here just a second ago, Matthew, and I remember pointing it out to you. Wait, yeah, it was in this video. We can already see
this one?
Yeah, in this video, we can already see that the railroad spans are starting to sag from the heat.
All right.
Like we can see that this one right here is starting to, I guess you could say, cave, where the heaviest of the fire has been. And we can also see further down that this one hasn't really started to sag yet, but definitely one span will be gone within the next 2 hours on this railroad bridge. So we know that the road bridge and the railroad bridge have been knocked out.
Yeah. To me, it looks like so. I think, the bridge that collapsed, that part that with the asphalt road, it's not as crucial as the railway, because they can use railway to deliver anything, and they mostly use railways in the occupied territories to deliver their ammunition and vehicles and stuff. So I believe that they're screwed.
Said in the words of one of the best Ukrainian war YouTubers out there, they are screwed. And so with that, everyone, we got a pretty good idea of what's going on. Also, we mapped out earlier, we found a railroad map of Crimea and also the Kherson region, and found out that everything here that we've outlined in salmon is completely knocked out. So all of the railroad access is beyond KERCH, all the way up to Kherson, and everything within the Crimean Peninsula, most likely for several days until they try and create an overland route into Crimea, are completely wiped out in terms of supplies. There will be no supplies available to any of those soldiers until they set up a new supply line. So I gotta say, I think this is about the best thing that we've seen in the war yet. This beats out the Moskva. This beats out really everything. It almost even beats out, in terms of its potential, the counteroffensives in the northeast. This could change the entire front line and the entire situation in the south, and also how easily defended Crimea can be from a Ukrainian counterattack that starts pushing into it. So
I'd say so. And also, Enforcer, I just want to note that mainstream media still has not touched the story yet, so we're still at the forefront of it. But also, Operator Starsky, if you want to answer this question, I've seen it quite a bit in the live chat. A lot of people want to know if you think, since you're on the ground in Ukraine, do you think that this might be a provocation that Russia may justify using nuclear weapons in some way?
No. Again, guys, we have to see what they are saying about it, and I think that the news would have been there in the media by this time, because if they were prepared earlier, they would have already been talking about it. So I don't think that they prepared this as a provocation. Also, guys, I mean, it's stupid. It's like cutting their whole Crimea and whole southern front of their supplies. It's like insane. It's not like shooting their own leg. It's like shooting their own balls. So yeah, I think they didn't expect that, and basically it means that their southern front is going to collapse. I mean, in case we cut off Mariupol and Kherson, then Crimea is screwed, and Kherson is already screwed.
And I would have to agree with that completely. And I think for the rest of the night, of course, Starsky, if you do have to leave, let us know. That's totally fine because I know we just caught you on like a day that's not planned or anything, and this just happened. But this is still the most insane night of news that we have ever had. And honestly, I would have to up you one, Starsky, and say that this isn't like blowing off their balls. This is more like blowing off their head, especially in the entire southern front. This just gone now. The supplies won't ever be there, probably again.
Yeah.
And so
yeah, I agree. I agree.
And so with that, Matty, I see you threw up an interesting poll, and let's cover that one real quick.
All right, and this poll has been up for about 3 minutes, so the results aren't completely, I guess you could say, all the way complete. But the question was, do you think this attack on the Kerch Bridge was conducted by Ukraine? It looks like 66% said yes, oh, I believe the Ukrainians attacked. 27% said I don't know, I'm undecided. And 6% said no, it may be a Russian false flag. So, Enforcer, what are your thoughts on that poll?
We actually just got someone in the live chat who just said there's actually a video of a rocket now slamming into the Kerch Bridge. So I'm going to try and find that real quick. Yeah, so I'm going to allow you to air your opinion on it, and Starsky, while I try and find this video. So either one of y'all, please proceed with y'all's opinions.
Okay, so guys, I believe that every time I'm asked about like what saves Ukraine, my answer is usually unexpected freaking stuff. I'm talking about things like MH17 that was shot down in 2014. Some kind of crazy mistake, some kind of I don't know, lethal mistake made by Russians. That can happen, definitely, judging from the the state of their logistics and technology and everything. So we could probably expect that to happen at some point. What's your take on this, Mike? Matt?
So me personally, on whether or not it was conducted by Ukraine, I would have to say that I would be kind of hard pressed to say that it'd be a Russian false flag, just because this is so damning to their forces. It's going to cut them off from supplies. I would have to say that it doesn't sound like we have any confirmation that it was definitely the Ukrainians and not just an accident. But I would have to fall within the majority that said that yes, the Ukrainians attacked. I couldn't see it any other way. But Enforcer, do we have that video or photo yet?
I think we do have the video. It looks like the bottom is blurred out, but maybe we can hear some audio. So let's listen to it real quick, and let's see if this is the one. You see it zoomed in.
Ебать! Ох ты, блядь! Ебать, взорвалось что-то.
Ща нахуй взрывная волна. На нахуй, ебать!
That is most like... I can't say for certain because we can't see it all too well. This happened literally before twilight even. But those sounded like explosions.
Now, I have to say, Enforcer, it's kind of tough to see from that video exactly what is even being hit. At least to me, I couldn't really make anything out unless that's my screen.
No, it's actually like the bottom half of this video is blurred out for some reason. But we can see at least right here an explosion occur.
Ебать! Ох ты, блядь! Ебать, взорвалось что-то.
Ща нахуй взрывная волна. На нахуй, ебать!
Then we can hear two separate explosions. That is kind of odd. And I don't think oil tanker cars explode like bombs. I'm not sure. Let's check. Do railroad oil cars explode? A train carrying crude oil derailed. Let's see. Boiling liquid, expanding vapor explosions. Of numerous tank cars which leveled the town center and killed 47 people. Let's see. Let's see if we can find some more. let's see.
My guess would be yes, they probably explode.
My guess is that they probably do explode. So those may have been the oil tankers on the bridge exploding, but we're not entirely sure. We don't really know, because that also doesn't explain why the road spans on the opposite side of the bridge have fallen into the sea, unless if the Russians designed it that way. So I'm kind of on the fence on that. I don't know if it was a Ukrainian attack or if it was just something that happened, but the road spans collapsing tells me that it most likely, in my opinion, although we don't have any official information on how this happened yet, I feel like it was most likely some kind of an attack, although I'm not exactly certain. But of course...
All right, and Enforcer also, it looks like we have our first mainstream coverage of it. It looks like the BBC is the first outlet to pick it up. I'm trying to gather more info on it, but thank you, Magic Sky Girl, for the heads up on that. It looks like they plan on having a short statement out in a moment. Hopefully it's not just what we already know and some new information. Probably not anything new, but we'll have to see. Also, I see a new picture here that I'm going to forward to you from Twitter. Thank you to Chelf for sending that to me. Very good picture. Enforcer, you should see that coming across in just a second.
Got you. I gotta tell y'all, I thank you all so much for sending me messages. I have to scroll up like a whole half minute to get to Matthew, because there's so many of y'all that have sent me a message. And we do have a brand new picture, which I'll be pulling up on our main screen here, of the Crimean Bridge. And I gotta tell y'all, I don't know about you, Starsky, but I don't think the Russians designed this thing that way.
Unless they wanted to connect, I don't know, Crimea with their submarines. Yeah.
Yeah,
they're trying to reach the Moskva straight down.
Yeah, if they're trying to, it's the special recovery operation for the Moskva. They just tilted the bridge down to go grab it real quick. They'll be back. But, oh my god. This is, wait a minute, hang on. This is going to confirm something real quick for us. If the tankers exploded on the bridge, they won't exist in any pictures. But they're all there. Let's go.
Wait a minute, say that again.
If the oil tank cars on that train exploded, they would be gone. They would have evaporated pretty much from the force of the explosion. But in this video, we can clearly see the silhouette of oil tank cars across the entire railroad bridge. So those weren't oil tank cars exploding in that video. That had to have been some kind of a missile or a bomb exploding in, I believe it was this video. So let's watch this one more time with that in mind. All of the oil tank cars are still on that bridge. And let's look at this again.
Ебать!
Ох ты, блядь! Ебать, взорвалось что-то.
Ща нахуй взрывная волна. На нахуй.
There's no way that could have been an oil car. So that's got to be some kind of a bomb or a missile.
Interesting.
All right. So now we're starting to get a better idea of what it could have been. It couldn't have been, that could not have been oil tank cars exploding, or they wouldn't exist. So it's some kind of explosive or bomb that we just heard in that video, and I'm supposing, based off of this picture, maybe that bomb exploded. We need to find this out. Is there a signal on that part of the bridge? I'm sorry, Starsky, I got you up for me to start rabbit holing. I'm really sorry about this, but that is a railroad signal.
Oh, okay, Enforcer, I have a really good clip here. It's actually either webcam or security footage of the moment that the KERCH bridge, either something exploded or not. And I'll be honest with you, looking at this video, it looks like it might have been something like a missile or something like that. But I'm going to forward this over to you, Enforcer, and we'll let people that are probably more qualified than me figure out what this is. But I'm sending that link over to you right now. Let's see here. Oh, I'm getting confused. Trying to get to that DM page. There we go. All right. And you should have that right now. And also, Enforcer, a heads up. It does have either some kind of, I don't know if it's an age restriction or what. I don't know why. There's nothing really graphic in it, but check it out first.
That wasn't the exact time it happened. Alright, everyone, so I'm going to pull this over to our screen real quick and show this to y'all. So Starsky, your expert analysis on this. Or I'm just going to show the video and then let everyone make up their minds as to what this was. Also note, it seems a lot brighter in this video than normal, but the time on the clock does show the correct time. It apparently happened at 6 o'clock in the morning. And so what do we think?
That's interesting. A lot of fire I see. So in case that was but wait a second, we cannot see the burning train before the explosion, right?
That's true. Let's go back and look at that. Yeah, there is no plume of smoke out there or fire. It's just that, wait a minute, hang on. Did y'all see that? It looks like something up here. Hang on, let me make sure that I see this correctly. Nope, I just saw something. I didn't see anything there. But there's no fire on that bridge, and there's no smoke plume, and that explosion just spontaneously happened. So
yeah, that's what I'm talking about, because according to the media, the train was burning. It caught fire, and it was burning, and that caused basically those vapors of fuel to ignite and explode and to detonate. But I don't see a burning train. No plumes of smoke, nothing like that. It's just an explosion, and probably the train that was like approaching this place, it crashed, which caused fire. It, like, in my opinion.
I'm looking at this, and one thing I would like to point out to everyone here is that when we look at this bridge, there is a railroad signal right there. So, you know, this is the end of a signal block, and in case, and I know I'm about to go into maximum nerdy stuff, but like Starsky, there's like red lights on a street. Trains operate in the same way, and they have red lights on the tracks. And as long as this like area is green, a train can move into it. But if the next signal's red, they have to stop about right here, and they can't go into the next one. And this is clearly railroad signals on this part of the bridge. And if we go back and look at this picture, there is that railroad signal on the side of that railroad bridge. And so it looks like that oil tanker train had stopped on that part of the bridge. Something hit the road bridge over here, and then that explosion led to probably the oil cars catching on fire.
Are you sure that we're looking at this bridge from the proper side? Because this could be taken from the shore. No, you're right.
Yeah, so like I think the picture was taken somewhere right here in the sea,
Yeah.
looking towards the bridge, and we can see right here that the shadows change in height from the railroad bridge to the road bridge. And so this bridge does appear to the road bridge, at least, appears to get up to the height of the railroad bridge to cross this span, but it is lower. And then we can see the signal block up here that we can see in this picture right there. And so way back here, these spans are gone. And then it looks like nothing hit the railroad bridge. It looks like it hit the main road bridge, and then that explosion apparently flew up into the oil cars, ruptured them, and then set them on fire, probably from the heat of the explosion.
Yeah, that could be true. That's interesting.
That is pretty interesting. And I'm wondering, Matthew, are you hanging in over there?
Yes, I'm actually sourcing through some stuff right now. And also, Enforcer, are y'all still talking about something else, or are you ready to see another clip?
Yes, we are ready to see another clip if you have one.
Okay, so I'm not sure if this is the same security camera footage that we just saw a moment ago. And also, I'm a little curious about how this got uploaded so quickly. So I have my, reservations about this footage, but I did send you a new link to a YouTube video with security camera footage as well of the hit.
Got you. So we're going to click on that one real quick. This one's on YouTube. And it looks like the same video. But let's see real quick if it is. I think the bridge is over here to the right. And I gotta be honest with you, I don't think I see anyone on this one. I see a crane moving down here at a barge, but I don't see anything at the bridge. Wait a minute, hang on.
It happens near the end.
It happens near the end, sorry. So it's over here. Okay, wait a minute. This one showed us a lot more of the beforehand, and we don't see a fire out there again. There is no fire or no smoke. And we can hardly see it. It's just a slither on this camera. That's got to be a missile or something. And so with that, that's the end of that video. We'll keep that one up for reference purposes. So with that one in mind, Starsky, are you still of the mindset that it must have been some kind of a bomb or or a missile that hit that bridge, or are you thinking that it may have possibly been some kind of a fire or some kind of gas leakage that may have seeped out of the train?
I don't think that it was caused by the fire because yeah, on those videos we cannot see the train on fire. But I can tell you one thing: that train, all that fuel definitely is not going to Crimea.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, which is good news, of course.
Actually, Starsky, I was just thinking, this, along with trying to make the bridge go into the sea so that way they can recover the Moskva, they're also leaking the oil most generously down into the sea so that way they can refuel the Moskva so it can get back in running order instantly.
Yeah, it was a special refueling operation.
Enforcer, I'm sorry to interrupt. I have the best clip I've seen thus far. It's somebody driving in a car on the bridge at the exact moment it hit.
Really?
Yes. So let me get this right now and send it over to you. Sadly, it doesn't really... The person dropped the camera or something like that whenever it did hit, but it does give you a good view of it. So let me send that over to you right now.
Is it a
This
YouTube
is a pretty
video?
good one. It's actually a Twitter video.
Okay. I think there's a function where we can slow down a video on Twitter.
And there it is.
All right. So let's see here. We have no options to slow this down, sadly, so we can't do it like YouTube at 0.25 speed, but let's see what we got.
That's a missile.
That's a missile.
Definitely.
God. So I don't think they dropped the camera, Matthew. I think the explosion busted out the windshield, and that was the camera falling into the car.
Maybe so.
But let's listen to that noise one more time. Well, I don't see the train up there. Wait a minute, I gotta be honest with you. I think this may be some kind of an edited video. Because I was just thinking about this because the time of day doesn't match up with anything else. It's a cloudy day. It was a clear sunny day in every other video, and it's almost like midday kind of light. So I think sadly this was a good try. But then again, it wouldn't make any sense that this car continued driving and the flash originated from the front of it, because if that was the case, it would have flown into the sea, and they're also on the incline. So I don't think that
back to Twitter.
Yeah, sadly. Back to Twitter, but we were kind of close. I was about to be like, Starsky, you think this is real? Nah, it's not.
No, I don't think so. I saw that in Save It Private Ryan.
Oh man. And so sadly, that wasn't a video of the KERCH bridge getting hit. We'll still be waiting on that. I don't think there was a lot of vehicles on the bridge at this point because we don't see any vehicles that have stopped on the bridge anywhere around here or over here. The bridge is completely empty. And also someone said no train. Yes, I didn't see the train either. But one thing we did see in that video, let me go grab that again. That was a great thing to show. Because while it's a fake video, oh, now it's already been deleted. Look at that, man. They got on that on the ball. It's gone. So I was actually going to go back to it because it showed that signal block again. And I promise y'all, that train had stopped for a red signal because there was another train on the bridge further up in the next block. And it was sitting there when that missile attack happened. And it blew up over here. And then the explosion and the shrapnel flew up into the oil cars and caused a fire up there because it only has to reach 220 degrees Celsius in heat for an oil fire to start burning, but then the oil will burn at around 1,440 degrees Celsius, which, you know, Starsky, you knowing metrics and being raised on it, that's a little warm.
Kinda.
Kind of a little toasty.
Yeah, I agree on that because in case some kind of huge charge was used, was it like like a planted device or a missile. But from what we could see from the video, the moment of explosion, I mean, definitely, because like the distance between the very explosion and that train standing there, it's minimal. It's like what, 20 meters?
I think so.
So yeah, like even in terms of some common artillery, something like 152 millimeters, 20 meters is nothing. It will destroy anything in its like in the radius of 35 meters. That's a dead zone. So that could be the cause.
And I think it may be. And so, with this in mind, we will. I don't even know what we're going to do. Like Starsky, I'm just wondering, would you be willing to stay on till the close of the stream? I have to tell you, I don't know how long this will go, and if you want to leave, I understand completely, because we may be on here for another 30 minutes to an hour. I'm not exactly certain.
No, guys, I'm here.
All right. And so Starsky is with us, everyone. He will be here until the end of the stream. And I got to tell y'all, once again, history is being made as we speak. This entire map right here of every single Ukrainian major rail line, there are smaller ones that we did not map out, has been knocked out, that was connected to the Kerch Bridge and its supply lines. And so every single Russian unit, most likely within a 30 to 50 mile I guess you could say radius of any part of that railroad line, is now completely without supplies and will most likely begin to starve, run out of gas, run out of ammunition and supplies, and they will have to try and move to, I guess you could say, more habitable ground, or they will starve in one way or another. And so it's great to see, and once again, we're going to go through the montage of all the videos we found so far. Wait a minute, hang on. Someone said, hey, Matthew, real quick, see if they've sent you a message on Discord. Naniel Overlock says, new video up, missile confirmed, search for it. So if you can, see if you've gotten a new DM from anyone showing us that video. Because if we can find it, that would be great. And
at this guys, at this moment, I'm surfing through Russian Telegram channels, and I see that Russian citizens of that territory say that there was one woman. She said that she woke up exactly at 6 a.m. She was sitting outside drinking coffee. She said that she saw as if something was flying very, very low and like flying and shining, according to her words, like a missile. But again, I wouldn't try their Telegram channels much. But it's an interesting information. Yeah, a bunch of people say that they saw something flying right before the explosion.
interesting. So it does seem like it may have been a missile. I'm just wondering, Starsky, what kind of missile could the Ukrainians have even been given to cause that kind of damage in 2 explosions? Because you and me have both said that throughout the entirety of the war, up until now, that the Ukrainians have neither the weapons nor the ability to hit the bridge and actually destroy it. Yet what we're seeing here has proven both of us wrong, because that bridge is destroyed. And I'm trying to wonder what kind of explosive yield would be needed to knock out spans like that. Like, I'm honestly at a loss.
Me too, because because again, if it was something like Точка U, it couldn't reach this location from our controlled territory. That's too far for Точка U. Maybe something like a Neptune, because on one hand. But then there's like a span of that bridge collapsed.
Yeah, I mean,
that's
That's throwing. I think that's what's throwing the massive wrench in here, because I have no idea what could have caused that kind of damage, because a 500-pound bomb, from what we both assumed, at least what I assumed, I don't know if you thought this too, a 500-pound bomb would be about the biggest thing that would not destroy a bridge span. It would moderately or heavily damage it, but it wouldn't knock it straight into the sea. I have no idea what in the world would have done this. It would have to have had a yield. That one's gone, so sadly that we'll never see that one again. But let's see, where is that video? That guy looking over into the sea and we see the spans. I'm trying to find that one. Here we go. Like the span, like the explosion was so strong that, wait a minute, hang on. Are those holes right here and here where the mouse cursor is? They kind of look like holes in the tarmac.
Could be. I mean, Russian-built roads, you know.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. But wait a minute, let's look at this here. Nope, those aren't holes, I don't think. I wish we could zoom this in a little bit and try and see that better. But I'm telling you, I can't think of anything that would have the force to lift up a whole span and then just throw it down into the sea unless it was massive, like 1,000 pounds. Let's find out. What missiles carry over 1K pound warheads? So a Tomahawk.
No way.
But I don't think the United States has given y'all Tomahawks. But this has got this is from what I would assume. Once again, this is layman knowledge. So Starsky, don't think I have any kind of like a explosives background or structural engineering background. But a Tomahawk would have the yield to be able to hit that bridge and destroy it. It has a 1,000-pound warhead. It would have been slow enough. Also, it flies at a pretty low height. It could have done it.
Could be. Let me check something really fast. Okay, so Neptune missile carries 1,000. Wait a second. Okay, the warhead. No, that's...
I don't think it'd have the range. Because it has a range of 100 and of course, this is according to Wikipedia. We don't actually think, I don't think we have the official range on this, but the supposed operational range is 170 miles. And so that means that it could have, Starsky, this thing could have been a Neptune. It could have been fired from a Rikkiv. Or
yeah, because according to our sources, it's like 280, almost 300 kilometers, which is 160 miles, 170 miles. But the Neptune only carries something like, wait a minute, where was it? The Neptune only carries 300 pounds warhead. 300-pound warhead.
I don't think that would have... Yeah, that probably wouldn't have done it. For some reason on Wikipedia, it says it has a 1,900-pound warhead, but honestly, I don't believe that for an anti-ship missile, because that thing would have to be huge. Like, it would almost be as big as the ship it's hitting. Let's see.
So the whole weight of the missile is 1,600 pounds, something like that. That's the whole missile, and its warhead is only 300 pounds.
Yeah, so I don't think it could have done that. Thank you, by the way. We're running a long one tonight, so I had to stock up on the food so that way I could try and survive. But
all right, and also, Enforcer, real quick, to interrupt real quick. It looks like I was sent that same video that we looked at earlier that we thought was fake. I'm just looking and comparing them both to see if there's anything new. Okay, that one that we looked at earlier has been deleted. I don't know if you want to look at it again, Enforcer. I think this one might be slightly longer.
We'll take a look at it.
It's in your DM.
Got you. 1 second. Trying to make sure to stock up for the winter, I guess you could say. So let me go to. Wait a minute. Okay, yeah, I am on you. You just sent this a few minutes ago, I believe. So let's put this one up. So we can see cars on the bridge. Fire. That's actually someone, it looks like in the Russian Navy.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That's a policeman.
Oh, okay. I forgot that the policemen look militaristic in Russia.
Алло.
Yeah.
Вертите маленько. Толя, я опоздаю, короче, мост горит.
Okay, so this one is new. It doesn't show an explosion, but it does show the massive fire. And at this point, it was a literal fireball. It looks like it was almost extending over onto the road bridge as well. And the train was stopped. There's no way that the train could have been hit while it was moving. It had to have been stopped at that signal block. And so it looks like it's confirming everything that we've seen already before. And it's interesting to see there was actual road traffic there too. And I'm hoping that within the next few minutes, we can get some dash cam footage from a car that was actually on the bridge instead of, the fake one. But what do you think about this video, Starsky?
Well, we can see fire. We can see the asphalt part, the highway going directly underwater. But according to the Ukrainian Air Force, Ukrainian Air Force confirms the information about a strong fire at the KERCH bridge. I think this news was made by press officer who was obviously Captain Obvious, or had nice sense of humor. But yeah, so we can see that fuel that tanks carrying fuel are burning and part of the bridge is destroyed. That's from the message made by press service of the Ukrainian Air Force.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, their observation is absolutely amazing.
It is. It's very insightful. I actually did not know that the bridge was on fire until right now. But yeah, I mean, right now at this moment, it seems like the information that's coming out about what's really happening is kind of sparse. And I've got to be honest, if the Ukrainians did do this, I have a feeling that y'all are going to deny it for a while, because this is most likely going to elicit some kind of crazy lash out from the Russians, considering that the whole southern front will most likely collapse within a week. Of course, that's just my opinion. Maybe they'll do nothing. Hopefully they'll do nothing, but say, okay, maybe it's time to quit. What if this is the moment that the Russians just say, this is it, we're done, we're giving up?
Could be. No, obviously they won't say that, and I think it's gonna take a bit longer than a couple of weeks. But yeah. So yesterday, I think. Oh my God! Some Western media were saying that there is a hope that this war ends before Christmas, before Ukrainian Christmas, which is in January. And yeah, in January. So I was like, why not? Sounds great. And basically, we see that it had some sense, some confirmation to that. I'm just looking at the picture taken from a distance, but I can clearly see the two spans of this bridge destroyed completely. I will drop it to you. Wait a second.
Matthew right now, he must be quietly searching for everything he can.
Yes, I am. And also, Enforcer, we do have one more poll to go. And also, real quick, I'm just looking through the mainstream articles as well. It looks like The Guardian has also picked it up. I haven't seen that BBC article yet. Maybe they haven't released it. Let's see, just doing some looking here. I'm trying to scour every source I know to look for stuff. I haven't seen any new videos or pictures yet, but also if you have sent me one, thank you very much for doing so. That helps me out a ton because I'm trying to scour through Twitter as well. And sometimes I miss some things. But Enforcer, if you want, we can go over that poll.
And let's go over it.
All right, and the question is, based on this footage, what do you think happened to the KERCH bridge? And we were referring to that footage earlier from the security cameras. It looks like 52% said missile and artillery attack. 10% said accident by Russians. 29% said train car was rigged with explosives. And 9% said none of the above. So overall, most people think it was a missile attack. And the runner-up is the train car had explosives on it. And obviously, we'd have to assume that the Ukrainians would have probably rigged the explosives and not the Russians, unless you were under the assumption that maybe it was a false flag attack, which I don't think that was the popular option on the last poll, and I would tend to not believe that option. But Enforcer, what are your thoughts?
Now, to answer this poll, I know that a lot of y'all put down a decent amount of options. Only 52% of y'all picked missile and artillery attack, and I'm going to explain the devil's advocate for accident by Russians and the train car was rigged. First off, like Operator Starsky and me have said on the stream, it would not make sense for this to be an accident by the Russians or some kind of false flag on their part, because doing this in the process of destroying this bridge, they have now destroyed any chance of holding on to the southern front in Crimea, probably forever. The second one, with the bomb being rigged onto the train, if that was the case, then the railroad, well, the spans of the bridge that would have been destroyed would have been the railroad spans themselves and not the road spans, because the majority of the force would have occurred up here. Instead, it looks like the majority of it happened down here. Some of it went over to the right side onto the other road span, and then some of, I'm guessing, the shrapnel or whatever it was, flew up towards the railroad bridge, hit the stationary train that was at the railroad signal, and then caught it on fire. I'm thinking that's most likely what happened, and also there is really no way, thinking about this, that a bomb on the train could have exploded and then its downward force, because the force of the explosion would have been projected downwards onto the road, would have been able to lift up the span and then fling it into the water. That would have had to have been something that exploded onto these spans themselves or directly under it. And so for that reason, I'm thinking that this is probably a missile attack, but I'm going to let Operator Starsky take over again. I think we probably answered this one about 4 or 5 times. I'm sorry about making you answer the same question, Starsky, but if you would like to run through it again, we'd be more than happy to hear it.
What is the speed of cruise missile? Like 800 kilometers per hour?
It depends. Is it a Tomahawk or...
For example, the Tomahawk. I'm interested to know what is the speed per minute.
I think the speed per minute of a Tomahawk is 245 meters per second, but I'm not exactly sure. Tomahawk speed. So it is actually 885 kilometers per hour or 550 miles per hour.
Which gives us... How many kilometers will it fly in 2 minutes?
1 second. What was that again?
How many kilometers is it gonna fly in 2 minutes?
10 minutes. Let's see. It does 550...
2 minutes.
Got you. So 550 divided by 60. It is flying 9.2 miles per minute.
You sure?
Yes, because 550 miles per hour divided by 60 for each minute is it comes out to around 9.1 to 9.2 miles per minute.
Okay, the reason I'm asking is because the bridge exploded at 6 hours and 2 minutes, according to what we saw on video, web camera. And knowing how precise militaries are, if the order to destroy this bridge was executed directly at 6 a.m., we can, like, if it was a missile, we can try and find the radius, the approximate radius from the bridge.
So at 9.2 miles per minute for a Tomahawk, in 2 minutes time, it was really closer to 3 minutes, kind of. Let's watch that security footage again if we have it. I think this was it. It was 6:02. It was almost 6:03. So really close to the next minute. So it almost had 3 minutes of flight time if it was a Tomahawk. It fired at 6 o'clock. So that means that at 9.2 miles per minute, 9.2 times 3, it would have had to have been 27.6 miles away to hit it in about 3 minutes time. So that means it would have been about that far away. So it would be mostly very close to KERCH in the Sea of Azov, and out towards the Black Sea, it would almost be in the KERCH Strait. So for the large part, I think that's a short range, but let's do the math here real quick, since we do know that it covers 550 miles per hour. And I'm sorry if you need me to, Sarsky, I will convert to metrics. But let's see, we have 167 miles from Urikiv, and hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. And so we know that it does 9.2 miles a minute. So 168 divided by 9.2. If it had been fired from Urikiv, a Tomahawk cruise missile would have had a flight time of around 18 minutes and 15 seconds. Which means, hang on, 18 minutes and 30 seconds. Let's look at this again. $18 minutes, 30 seconds, 18. That means it would have been fired at 5:45 if it was a Tomahawk, exactly. Yeah, and it literally hit at the beginning of a brand new minute, which would have been right around that 18-minute mark if it was fired at 5:45 in the morning. That Tomahawk would have had enough time to fly from Urikiv all the way down to the KERCH Bridge, hit it, and explode. So it looks like, military time-wise, we're trying to see if they would fire it off at like a time like the top of the hour every 15 minutes or so. It would have been in that timetable, but what if it was a Grom or a Krim? So let's see about that. The Krim 2 has the range. It has a 1,100-pound warhead, so it does have the size most likely. And we can see that it can reach out to 250 to 310 miles. So it does have the range. It also has the warhead. Does it have... Well, we know it probably has the speed as well. But we don't know how fast it travels.
I think around that. I think around 800 kilometers per hour.
I wonder. I would have to say, I think it certainly was a Ukrainian missile. We've almost narrowed it down to that for sure. But we do not know what kind of missile it would have been. It could have been anything really at this point. We'll have to try and find out in the future. And also, Matthew, have you found anything new?
So I think I've found a new picture. Unless you've shown it already, go check your DM and see if that looks familiar.
Got you. So it looks like we have shown this one before. I believe that shows the incline down to the destroyed spans, and then the slightly damaged one to the right side. So
Are you sure you're looking at the right one?
Yes. I was sent at 12:41.
Yes, that would be it.
Yeah, we have shown that one before.
Okay. All right. Well, then nothing new then at the moment. Let's see here. I was just looking through it. It looks like, now, folks, before anybody gets riled up, I don't necessarily like calling out this news network, but it looks like CNN has reported on it. They're one of the first American outlets to report on it. It looks like they're basically quoting Russian state media. So that's about as reliable as a dog. But it looks like they're saying that the fuel tank exploded on Crimea's Kerch Bridge, but obviously they don't say the source of the explosion because the Russians don't want to admit that it was a Ukrainian attack if it was one. But that basically tells us nothing because we really can't rely on that source. But nothing really new that I've seen thus far.
Let's see. Yes. So real quick, everyone, we already know the spiel. We've seen all the pictures. Here's what CNN says, and I don't mean to rat on mainstream news too much, but let me read this off to you all, and I'm sure that Starsky will see why I don't really trust mainstream news here in the United States. A fuel tank exploded on Crimea's Kerch Bridge early Saturday morning, according to Russian state media RIA and social media footage. The source of the explosion remains unclear. The tanker was located on the 19-kilometer-long Kerch Bridge, the longest in Europe and strategically important because it links Russia's Krasnodar region with the Russian-annexed Crimean Peninsula. Work is underway to extinguish the fire. The advisor of the Russian administration head of occupied Crimea, Oleg Kryunchkov, said in a Telegram post, adding that the bridge's shipping arches were not damaged. Well, real quick, everyone, this guy is a perfect politician because he actually didn't say that the bridge was fine. He just said that the shipping arches weren't damaged, and in that, he is right. But that doesn't talk about the other part of the bridge that's in the sea. So it looks like incredibly short article, no detail, and it looks like CNN isn't really combing through the information like we are. And so it looks like we're on our own still right now as far as world coverage of this goes. It looks like not a lot of people have been covering it. We were, believe it or not, surprisingly enough, we somehow were able to get the credit. We were the first to report it in the world. It literally happened within seconds, and we were already showing a video of it, which is insane to think that we were here for that. But with that, we're still going to be trying to gather up some more news and information real quick on this, but I've got to tell y'all, the Kerch Bridge is gone. It's blown up. And of course, to get back to the picture, probably the best one yet, this is the actual damage that's been caused to the road bridge. And when you see the railroad bridge on fire.
I can confirm that. Looks pretty much destroyed to me.
So Starsky, let's play a game of let's play a I don't know. I don't know what this game's called. Let's just do this. Shall we play a little game?
Sounds nice.
All right. So, is the bridge on fire?
Looks so.
All right.
The rail part of it, yes.
Okay, so does the bridge look okay?
It looks anything but okay to me. I mean, I wouldn't risk using that to get to the Crimean beach.
Let's see. 1 second. In case if you don't know, Starsky, we have an organization, I'm sure y'all have something like it in Ukraine, called the Department of Transportation, and they say what roads are safe and not. And so let's pull up bridge safety inspection, and let's see if we can get a questionnaire to fill out from the Department of Transportation just to make sure we're seeing everything right. Also sounds like someone's playing dubstep in the background. I like that.
Yeah, I can't tell what that is.
I just heard like Gangnam Style, the beat to Gangnam Style in the background. And I was like, huh. So let's see. So, Starsky, if we were to get on this bridge span here with something called a geologist hammer and a simple rotary impact tool, and we were to hit this bridge span to see if it's connected to the rest of it, do you think it would pass the test?
I doubt that.
I also doubt that as well. And so, with that, I think we can assume, based off of the Department of Transportation, this bridge is unsafe to drive on. And so with that, once again, I'm saying so with that so many times, I'm sure that Starsky's getting tired of it, everyone's getting tired of it. We are going to be looking into this a little bit more. And also, one other thing I'd like to point out that we haven't said yet is that the bridge spans that are in the water are the furthest north. So if we're looking at this bridge, out of all three spans, the ones that are destroyed that we can tell are facing northwards, on this side facing towards Ukraine. And so it seems logical that it would have been something from Ukraine, considering that that side of the bridge took the most damage. So that's once again kind of adding the validity that it must have been something that came from Ukraine. So I think, to be honest, I think we have nearly beat this dog dead. And I think we'll just have to wait. What was that, Matt?
Enforcer, I will add that I'm not sure if Starsky is at total liberty to say anything on it, but I find kind of odd that the Ukrainians are remaining silent at the moment. The Russian state media has released a statement, obviously a spin statement, probably not true, most likely not true, but we haven't heard anything from the Ukrainian government as of yet. So that might be telling to an extent.
And that may be telling, and also it may, well, then again, the Ukrainian government usually takes a couple of hours to release information, I believe, if I'm correct, Operator Starsky, on things like the raid on, well, they never confirmed the raid on Belgorod, the sinking of the Moskva, the counterattacks, among other things. Do they usually have a delay with that, or is that like an immediate, we're doing it, or it's been done kind of thing?
Because we need to assess and analyze the information, or if it's done in frames of special military operation by Ukrainian troops, then of course we have to assess the results, and then we can come up with some conclusions. Yeah, but like here, looking at this picture, I'm trying to understand what the thoughts of a person that was making this picture, because this person is standing on the Crimean side, and it looks in the direction of Russia, which I would call something like, I don't know, a picture of a dying hope.
That's a pretty good assessment. I would have to say, in response to that, I would have to certainly agree that it is kind of a little odd, and I would have to say that I think we'll have to wait for a little bit more information, too, to make sure that we can get the story straight on this. But y'all heard it here first, everyone. The Crimean Bridge has been destroyed, and that is the end of the story. Everyone lives happily ever after, and the war is over. Of course it's not. We'll be here tomorrow covering the war in Ukraine on Sunday, which I don't know, Starsky. You might be on. I'll make sure to check with you off stream beforehand again. But we'll be running a Sunday fundraiser. Wait a minute, hang on. What is today? Friday, Saturday?
Friday. Wait, it's Saturday now, but it's really Friday for us.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the Sunday fundraiser is going to be the stream after this upcoming one. So we won't be running the Sunday fundraiser on Saturday, but we will be running the Sunday fundraiser on Sunday. So, Operator Starsky...
Wait, got something else, Enforcer. It looks like in Crimea right now, it looks like there's panic. Looks like people are lining up at gas stations trying to get gas. I have a picture of that to show you real quick. Let me DM it to you. Let me dim it to you. All right, there you go.
Oh? Uh-oh.
It looks so familiar for some reason.
Now, Starsky, I know that Ukraine has had a little bit of a fuel shortage. Do you think the Russians are scared of a fuel shortage?
Well, judging from what I see, pretty much. But, like, if I was them, I would better, I don't know, buy aviation fuel instead of, instead of a petrol.
How come you would get aviation fuel? What's up with that?
Because, like, they have no bridge.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. I thought you were about to say to make Molotovs or something. I was like, oh, well, yeah, that's pretty fair. But with that, I think we have covered about all the news we can on this right now. We can already see that panic is starting to break out in Crimea, and panic might start breaking out in multiple areas that are Russian-occupied or Russian-controlled, maybe even inside of Russia itself, based off of this news, considering that everyone, the Ukrainians, the Russians, the entire world, has put so much weight on the KERCH bridge. This being destroyed is major, both physically and also symbolically, and it's showing that Russia's connection to the occupied areas of Ukraine is starting to crumble and literally fall into the sea. And so with that, we are going to be rounding out tonight's news segment right here. This is actually pretty much a marathon stream, especially if we add the one that was age restricted at the start. This stream tonight has been about 4 hours long. And so I thank you all so much for watching. We're going to be moving into the question segment here, and we're going to be answering some of the super chats. We're going to save most of them for a stream that we will probably run, I'm going to have to say, on Sunday before our Sunday night fundraiser stream, if that's okay with you, Matthew.
Say it one more time.
Running a follow-up stream on Sunday in the middle of the day to answer all of the super chats from tonight.
Yes, that's fine.
Yeah, we will be doing that because tomorrow I actually have to write a massive midterm paper that's about 5 pages long, and I don't think I'd be able to do one in the midday because of that. But we will be able to get to everyone's super chats that have been thrown in tonight. Unfortunately, we can't get any live chats either. I hope everyone understands. Tonight was a bit of a different night, especially because of what we're looking at here. And so we will, of course, be covering this tomorrow and probably every other day going forward and what this really means for them. So with that, we're going to answer, how many super chats do we have, Matthew?
Oh, goodness. Let's see here. We have 110.
Oh, my God.
And meanwhile, the enforcers are there snacking.
Yes. Saltine crackers.
Guys,
I think Starsky said something.
I wanna quote the Ukrainian Ukrainian Air Force, which literally say, so they posted this publication in their Telegram channel, and they say, morning at the Crimean Bridge, fuel tanks are burning. Also, span of the bridge is destroyed. Everything will be Ukraine. Which
that almost sounds like an admission.
Like I don't know, but to me it sounds optimistic,
promising.
So, promising, yeah, that's the word. And yeah, of course, I'm like, I have questions like why Ukrainian Air Force speaks about it. But I think that we will find out soon.
I think we will. And I'm hoping that we find out a lot more information about this tomorrow. And so with that, we are going to make sure to answer, we've got 110 of them. Gosh, that's the most we've ever gotten.
We can answer, let's see here, at least our top ones here. It looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 6 or 7 really large amounts of support. And just to recognize that very large amount of support, and by the way, we do appreciate all of our super chats, but we could address those tonight and then save the rest for Sunday during that midday stream.
So let's try and do this. We're going to address the biggest ones that we got, the 6 or 7 of those. Let's try and address any of the super chats that were sent in without a comment as well, if that's feasible for you. If not, let me know. And then we will try and answer some more of the larger ones, because thinking about doing 110 super chats in a single stream on Sunday is going to be an unholy feat. That stream will probably be 2.5 hours long just because. And so we might want to try and knock out about 30 of them tonight, so we have 70 of them on Sunday.
I'll be straight up enforcer. I don't think we'll be able to hold out that long.
Okay. All right. So let's do this instead then. We'll do the biggest ones, and then we'll do the ones without comments.
All right. Yeah, that sounds good to me. So, up first from our super chats, we have a $300 donation from Steve2848. And Steve is back.
Steve!
He says, congratulations on probably your biggest news scoop. It was a long time in the air, but looks like the Leaf Spring Army Regards finally made it to the KERCH Bridge.
And thank you so much for the massive support to this channel, Steve. And also to address that, it has been a massive time on air. Now, right now, looking at that, we have been on for at least 4 hours, 4 hours and 2 minutes at this moment. And I gotta say, it's been one hell of a night, and this news has been incredible. Unbelievable, actually. I can't believe it. And so I would say, yes, the Lee Spring Army sends its regards, has probably made it to the Kerch Bridge. And just in case if you didn't know, Starsky, an artillery unit in Ukraine with SignMyRocket.com actually fired off a shell that said the Lee Spring Army sends its regards.
Wow, that sounds great. Sounds great.
Yeah, I mean, like,
yeah.
It was amazing. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for the massive amount of support, Steve. Your support helps this channel to keep running. It helps us to keep food in our mouths, helps us to keep the lights on, and helps us to make it through every single week. So thank you so much once again, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and next up, we have a $120 super chat from Mark, the Orc X Sanguinator, who says, I cheat with 2 questions. Number 1, what weapon system hit the Kerch, in your opinion? Was it perhaps an ATACMS barrage? And number 2, is Sign My Rocket legit?
As far as we know, Sign My Rocket is legit. And also to answer the other question, I would have to say that if we had to go with any kind of weapon, also someone just said that the Russians claimed that it was a truck bomb. I don't believe the Russians. It's most likely some kind of a missile attack. And so, getting back to that question, I would have to say it's most likely some kind of a cruise missile of a sort. I'm not exactly sure what exact kind it would be, but we are leaning more towards the cruise missile category right now of weapons. And so with that, or then again, once again, considering that the Ukrainian Air Force is putting out stuff on Twitter, and they're the only ones in Ukraine doing that, it may have been something that was aircraft-borne and launched from an aircraft. We're not exactly sure. But with that, I hope we were able to answer that question fairly well. And thank you so much once again for the massive amount of support and helping this channel to keep going. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And also, Enforcer, real quick, I saw a couple of different people in the live chat. I'm not sure if this is true. I haven't been able to find anything on it. They say that Russian media is claiming that a truck was blown up on the Crimean Bridge, and that supposedly comes from the National Anti-Terrorism Committee.
1 second, let me pull them up. And how would they know that, considering there isn't even a truck that exists there anymore, like for them to see?
You got me on that.
So let's see here. I'm trying to find this this website.
Yeah, so I can see one Russian media that says that the truck exploded on the bridge. That's why 7 fuel tanks in that train caught fire. So that's the only thing that I see, and Rosbalt is not a very, reliable news source, I would say.
Also, real quick, Starsky, that's a good point. Another thing that someone just said in the chat, it was Jeff Curtis. He said no blast damage on the road deck, and that's correct. There is no proof of damage to the road deck right here, that there was any kind of explosive damage that caused the bridge to be destroyed. So I'm highly doubting that it was a truck bomb. I think it was some kind of a missile. And so with that, I hope that addresses that real quick, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and next up, we have a $100 super chat from Randy Wiedenfield, who does not leave a comment. But Randy, thank you so much for that very generous support. And I know the Enforcer wants to say a few words as well.
Yes, I do. I want to thank you so much for the support. Once again, I'm saying this like a broken record tonight, but you are helping us to keep this channel running. This is the only way we support the channel and help us to make sure to have food in our stomachs and be able to come back and do this every night. And so I thank you so much for the massive amount of support and helping us to keep this stream going. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again. And thank you for being here on such a monumental night. And with that, on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we have a $100 super chat from Susan G, who says, you 3 guys are a great team, and Slava Ukraine. And Susan, thank you very much for the kind words, and also, thank you very much for sticking with us through this very long stream, and thank you so much for the support.
And thank you so much, Susan, once again, doubling down on Matthew, for the kind words. We love kind words, and we love to know that people do enjoy what we do and want us to keep going. And of course, Your support helps us to actually do that. Also, another thing, Matthew, I actually saw that Susan G in the comments just a second ago said, you don't even have to do a follow-up stream. You don't even have to address the super chats. And I was like, ooh, no, we always...
Oh, we have to. We are committed.
We have to. I can't go and have y'all support the channel and want us to keep this thing going and actually support us and let us do this as a job and not thank y'all, each and every one of y'all, for helping us to be able to do that. So I always make sure that we have a duty to respond to each and every one of y'all who support this channel. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for the massive support. And I thank you for saying the three of us are a great team. This is actually the first time that Starsky has ever been brought on to a normal stream. Well, actually, up till this point, he was always brought on Sunday night fundraisers, which hopefully we'll be able to do this Sunday, but that's all dependent on Starsky's schedule. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much once again.
All right, and let's see. Up next, we have a $90 super chat from ZIGG Machine, who does not leave a comment, but thank you so much for your support, and I think that's the first time you've ever supported the channel, so welcome to the Leaf Spring Army, and thank you so much for the support.
And welcome to the Leaf Spring Army as well, and thank you so much for helping this channel to keep going. Each time y'all support this channel, y'all help us to keep on keeping this thing running. And so with that, and also, y'all help me to give out donuts at college because that's what I do at this point. It's nice. I like doing it. And so with that, I thank you so much for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and next up, we have a $75 super chat from Denise Riches, who says, wow, just tuned in. Operator Starsky and the KERCH Bridge. Exclamation point.
You know, and Matthew, he sounds like that German kid. Have you ever seen the meme where he's sitting in front of the TV and he's like, "I'm playing Fortnite and drinking cola, yippee!" Have you ever seen it?
No, I've never seen that.
Oh man, I wish I could pull that up. Wait a minute, I think we can't go down that rabbit hole. We were way late. But I do thank you so much for the support. That honestly, that reminded me a lot of that, and I thank you so much for enjoying this channel and enjoying the efforts we go through, because honestly at this point my voice does kind of feel hoarse, but I thank you so much for enjoying the efforts we go through to make sure to report this news every single day, especially tonight, considering that this is the biggest news ever. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next we have a $50 super chat from Garrett Lowe once again, and thank you for your second support of the night. He says, happy birthday Vladimir, kaboom.
And I'd have to agree. Happy birthday, Vladimir, and kabooey. And so with that, I thank you so much for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $50 super chat from Magic Sky Girl, who says, it's time to celebrate. Since you don't drink, Enforcer, I will have to consume a few adult beverages on your behalf. And Matthew, crack a brewski. And yes, it's Rona season. Let me go grab one. Not really.
And right now, with Starsky on, is a perfect time to crack a cold one with the boys and to sit around the fire on the bridge and just enjoy everything that's been done today. And so, thank you so much once again for the support, Magic Sky Girl. You're always helping to keep this channel running, and I thank you so much for doing that. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again.
All right, and let's see here. Enforcer, that appears to be one of the last ones that looks like we can cover for the night. I'm just looking real quick here. Also, before we get out of tonight, because it's only relevant since we showed the Morse code tonight, WF2U and Mark Hodges have figured it out. And WF2U puts in a $10 super chat and says, tonight's telegraph message, as converted by my trusty MK, I gray matter organic computer to text. I've run out of things to put in here. How's your day been?
You were correct. That is actually what I put down. I actually ran out of messages to put down today. If I had known that this was going to happen before a stream, wouldn't that have been sick if I had put that down in the Morse code? That would have been hilarious. But sadly, I didn't have a crystal ball with this one. This one completely took us all off guard and actually threw off the news. We never got to the speech from Zelensky or the news in the Donbass. But I still think everyone's totally okay with that because we got way better news in the meantime. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And thank you so much to all of y'all who are constantly reading off the Morse code and getting it for the rest of everyone to hear. And so with that, Go.
Guys, I'm sorry, real quick. Yes, I can confirm that Russian media, their RIA Novosti, say that Russian anti-terrorist committee claims that the truck exploded on the Crimean Bridge, which sounds like nonsense to me. But what do you think about it?
Wait a minute. I was just thinking about that, Starsky. That's the cop-out. The Ukrainians hit the bridge, and they're not going to say that the Ukrainians have the weapons to hit the bridge, and that was caused by the Ukrainians, because then that forces the Russian government to automatically escalate. They have to make a response to that if they claim it's Ukraine. And so what they're doing, most likely, is saying that it was some kind of truck that blew up on the bridge, so that way they can aim it inwards at some kind of internal domestic group and attack them instead of having to escalate the war. And so this may be their cop-out, so that way they don't have to try and follow up with their empty threats.
Exactly. I think that they can say that, I don't know, that the driver was smoking. And smoking is bad.
He was smoking one of those Lucky Strikes. By the way, Starsky, I actually got a picture of what actually destroyed the KERCH bridge. Like right now, I just saw it on the second monitor. So let me pull it up for you real quick. Let's see. So 1 second. I think we just found it. Yep, here it is. Starsky, are you ready to see what hit the bridge?
Oh my god.
I think it's going to blow your mind, man. It's going to blow your world wide open. It was a HIMARS.
What in the world is that? That's fake. That
It,
is so
yeah,
fake.
it's fake. It's fake, of course, but it's funny as hell. I mean, it's a HIMARS in a floating pool. But yeah, with that, I think we figured out we figured it out. It was a HIMARS, and so with that, thank you so much once again, Starsky, for letting us know that real quick. And also, I think we've gotten down to the bottom of this mystery. I'm going to consider it a case closed. Also, that is cool.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Starsky, is there like dubstep playing in the background?
I can't hear it.
Because because right then when you were talking, you were going, and then I heard boom, 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 like in the background. I was like, is he like in a rave? I was like, what? But with that,
There it goes again.
Yeah, there it goes again. Like every time your microphone turns on, there's like music back there.
Probably it's like, music in my soul, celebrating all that shit.
With Starsky around, life's a party. Like as soon as his microphone turns on, there's just music coming from the heavens or something. There it is again. It's happening again.
That's weird.
It's so weird. It happened again. Like right when you said that, it happened again. You probably feel like we're gaslighting you now into thinking there's just constant music playing, but I swear there's music every time your microphone like turns on. But with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and also Enforcer, I think that's going to be it for our super chats for the night. It looks like we'll have, let's see here, just trying to do a quick count. Looks like we'll have about 80 to get to on Sunday. And folks, we would love to cover them all tonight, but sadly, if we were to cover them all, I'll be forfeiting basically all the assignments that are due tomorrow evening because I wouldn't be able to function tomorrow. So unfortunately, we will have to save them for Sunday, but thank you all so much for the support. We do appreciate it very much. Real quick, let's cover 2 live chat questions. And it looks like the first one is going to come from David Simonetti, who says, how many of those Iranian drones did Russia buy?
We don't actually, I don't think we have an exact number. Starsky, do you have a number?
We know that approximately 4 IL-76 cargo airplanes were delivered from Iran to Russia. So you can imagine how many drones could fit on those 4 planes. Probably we're talking about a couple of hundreds of kamikaze drones, and probably about 100 of strike drones. As of yesterday, we had the report of 60 plus kamikaze drones destroyed. and a couple of a couple of Iranian strike drones that were destroyed as well. One of them was captured, by the way.
Hey, that's good. At least we can. At least y'all can rip the thing apart and see the two-stroke motor in it.
Yeah, but so they used Rotax motors. They used quite a few parts that were literally bought on AliExpress, and those parts can be purchased like easily. And yeah, that's interesting because that drone was captured over the Black Sea. It was towed to the shore, and literally like yesterday it was presented, showcased in Ukrainian media.
Interesting. And so with that, I hope that answers your question, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and the final question of the night goes to Mick Ranger, who says, can you expound upon the new M30A1 rockets that Ukraine forces just received for the HIMARS versus the regular M31 rockets for the Chat?
So, HIMARS, la 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 la. All right, so let's take a look at it. We got the MLRS. No, we don't want that. We want the M30s. I don't think we'll be able to get any information publicly available on Wikipedia on this, sadly. So let's pull up the HIMARS M31s.
Let's see, M30A1.
The M30A1. All right, so I'm going to have to click on Forbes real quick because I'm trying to find this in a bit of a pinch. But we can see, according to this, wow, big ad. Wow, Jesus. I've been, let's see, yesterday's. Now, there's another one. We do not, perhaps more images. Let's see here. Nickname Steel Rain. Let's see here. What about the... So the M31 is just a unitary warhead. Apparently the previous ones that the Ukrainians were getting were the M26s, which according to Forbes had 600 small bomblets in them. So they were pretty much, I guess you could say, a missile cluster bomb, if you want to call it that. So looks pretty interesting. But anyways, the M31 is the one that we've actually believed, and as far as I know, I thought the Ukrainians had been using over a large part of this war, but apparently it's just one large warhead. It's 196 pounds, and it just hits an exact target. It's GPS guided, and it explodes onto it. And so with that, I hope that explains the why the M31 is going to be far better. And of course, I thank you so much, Mick, for asking a very good question. And with that, we are rounding out tonight's stream. We will have a continuation stream on Sunday in the middle of the day for super chatters who did not get their questions answered tonight. I think we have about 80 super chats that were not answered. We will answer y'all's on a midday stream on Sunday, but due to the breaking news we had tonight, we had to forego our normal news segment and our normal question segments to make sure that we were able to cover this news as best as we possibly could. I hope you all understand, and of course, your questions will still be answered on Sunday in the middle of the day. You can have your cake and eat it too. I don't know who the hell came up with a quote, you can have your cake but you can't eat it. Who in the hell buys cakes and doesn't eat them? You know, like that doesn't make any sense to me. But I thank you all so much once again for watching. And I'm going to leave you all once again with this one picture right here. And as we go, remember, the war has changed forever. Thank you everyone for watching. I thank you all so much for enjoying the news, and I will see you all tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern Time to cover the next 24 hours of the war in Ukraine. Good night, and take care.